My name is Mara Voss. I'm 31 years old. And the night my parents threw away my birthday cake for my sister's fake crisis, none of us knew my grandmother had already signed the house out of their reach. They thought I had nothing. That was the part they were sure about. I was the quiet daughter, the one with the old car and the thrift store coat, the one who took extra shifts, clipped coupons, and never corrected people when they talked over her. My mother once told my aunt, right in front of me, that I was good with small things. She meant it kindly, or at least she smiled like she did. Years later, when the phone rang and my mother said they needed me to be reasonable, I was standing in the front room of the house they had already promised to my sister. My house. By the end of that afternoon, my sister had cried in front of 13 relatives. My father had finally said the sentence he should have said when I was 10, and my mother had learned that a signature can be quieter than a slap and still change everything. But I need to back up, because this did not start with the deed. It started with a birthday cake sliding into a trash bag, while my mother said, "Not everything is about you. There are people who can tell the truth without raising their voice, and it still shakes the room." That is the kind of story this is. If you have ever been made to feel selfish for wanting one small piece of love that everyone else received without asking, then you will understand why I remember the color of the frosting, the smell of rain on the sidewalk, and the exact sound my father's keys made when he left me standing by the kitchen sink. Before I go any further, tell me where you are watching from. I always wonder how far stories like this travel, because pain can happen in a tiny kitchen in Ohio and still make sense to someone across an ocean. And if quiet truth matters to you, stay with me. Subscribe if you want more stories where nobody has to scream to be believed. Now I'll tell you how my family worked. I grew up in Ashbury, a small town in northern Ohio, where people knew your car before they knew your name. The kind of place where the diner changed owners 3 times but never changed the coffee. The kind of place where everybody had an opinion about everybody else's lawn. My parents, Diane and Harold Voss, lived in a beige split level on Milner Road, 2 blocks from the Catholic school, and 1 block from a hardware store that still sold loose nails by the pound. My mother loved that house because it looked steady. Clean windows, blue hydrangeas, a black mailbox with our last name painted in white script. She used to wipe fingerprints off the storm door before guests came in, even if the guests were family, and the fingerprints were ours. My father worked for the county road department. He was not cruel in the loud way. He did not pound tables. He did not throw plates. He was the kind of man who could stand in the same room while something unfair happened and make himself small enough to pretend he had not seen it. That was his talent. My mother's talent was rearranging a room until you found yourself outside it. She never said, "You don't matter." She said, "Don't start." She said, "Be mature." She said, "You know how your sister gets?" She said, "Can we have one peaceful day?" And when all else failed, she said the line that became the lock on every door in that house. "Not everything is about you." She said it when I was 7 and cried because Tessa blew out my candles before I could. She said it when I was 12 and Tessa wore my new sweater to school and spilled orange soda down the front. She said it when I was 16 and my parents missed my debate finals because Tessa had called from a friend's house saying she felt unsafe, which turned out to mean the friend's mother would not let her sleep over with a boy in the basement. Not everything is about you. Those words sound reasonable when you hear them from the outside. Balanced, wise. Like something a mother says to teach a child humility. Inside our house, they meant something else. They meant Tessa was the weather, and I was expected to dress for it. My sister was 2 years younger than me, but she somehow became the center of the family before she could spell her own name. Her full name was Contessa, because my mother had wanted something elegant and dramatic, but everyone called her Tessa. She had honey blonde hair that curled at the ends no matter how badly she treated it, wide green eyes, and a little crease between her brows that appeared whenever she needed someone to feel sorry for her. By 8, she knew tears worked. By 10, she knew which adult to cry in front of. By 15, she had learned the difference between being in trouble and being interesting. If I got a B, my mother asked why it wasn't an A. If Tessa got a C minus, my mother said school failed creative children. If I needed shoes for marching band, my father told me payday was Friday. If Tessa needed a dress for homecoming, my mother drove her 40 minutes to Westlake Mall and came home with 3. My father always paid the credit card, quietly. That was his part. People outside our house loved Tessa. Teachers called her spirited. Neighbors called her sensitive. My mother called her my bright girl, even after Tessa backed her borrowed car into Mrs. Alton's mailbox and swore the mailbox had been leaning into the street. I was called dependable. That was the word adults used when they wanted to borrow your time and give you nothing back. Mara is so dependable, my mother would say when she needed me to babysit a cousin at the last minute. Mara is dependable, my father would say when he wanted me to drive Tessa somewhere because he was tired. Mara won't mind, my mother would add. I minded. I just learned that saying so cost more than staying quiet. When I was 9, I began counting. I do not mean money, though later I became very good at that too. I counted seconds, steps, breaths, tiles in the grocery store, the number of forks on a table. It gave me somewhere to put my feelings before they spilled out and got used against me. At family dinners, I counted how long my mother could listen to me before turning toward Tessa. 11 seconds if I talked about school. 7 if Tessa sighed. 3 if Tessa said Mom. Once on Thanksgiving, I got 26 seconds because Tessa was in the bathroom fixing her eyeliner. I remember being proud of that. 26 whole seconds. My Uncle Ron had asked me about a science fair project, and I was telling him how I'd built a model wetland in a plastic storage bin. I had saved moss from behind the garage and used aquarium gravel from the pet store. The water pump cost $14.99. I bought it with babysitting money. My uncle was leaning forward like he actually cared. Then Tessa came back into the room and said, I think I'm allergic to Aunt Pam's perfume. My mother stood up so fast her chair scraped the floor. That was the end of the wetland. I learned early that my life could be interrupted by a sentence. Tessa did not have to prove pain. She only had to announce it. My grandmother June was the only one who noticed. She was my father's mother, though you would never have guessed he came from someone with that much backbone. June Voss lived in a white one-story house on Alder Street with green shutters, a deep front porch, and a maple tree that turned the whole yard gold every October. The house was not fancy. It had old radiators, narrow closets, and kitchen cabinets that stuck in damp weather. But it was warm in a way my parents' house never was. It smelled like lemon oil, black tea, and the lavender soap she bought in bulk from a farm stand outside Medina. Grandma June was small, maybe 5'2" on a good day, and she wore silver hoop earrings even when she was just watering plants. She had worked for 31 years as the office manager at a title company, and she knew more about property records than most lawyers in the county. She could look at a deed and spot trouble in 2 minutes. She believed paperwork was memory with a spine. People lie, she told me once, tapping a file folder with one blunt fingernail. Paper can lie too, if a liar gets to it, but good records make liars work harder. I was 13 when she said that. We were sitting at her kitchen table while rain clicked against the window over the sink. My parents had dropped me there because Tessa had a dance showcase and, according to my mother, I looked sulky and would ruin the photos. I had not been sulky. I had a fever of 100.8 and a sore throat that made swallowing feel like gravel. Grandma June put a cool cloth on my neck and made me scrambled eggs with too much butter. Then she asked, "What happened?" I told her nothing. She waited. That was another thing about June. She did not fill silence just because it was there. She let it sit. She let you decide whether to trust it. I counted 13 ticks from the clock above her stove before I said, "Mom said I ruined pictures." June's jaw moved once. She said that? She said I looked like I might. There was a difference. I had been trained to be fair even when nobody was fair to me. June stood, walked to the little desk by her back door, and took out a blue folder. It was the kind with a tab at the top and two metal prongs inside. She wrote my name on a white label in her sharp block letters. Mara. Then she opened it and slid in a sheet of loose-leaf paper. "What is that?" I asked. "A place for things people try to make disappear." I did not understand. She dated the page. October 14th, 2008. Then she wrote one sentence. Diane left Mara with me sick and said she would ruin photos. I felt my face burn. "Grandma, don't." She looked at me over her glasses. "Don't what?" "Make it a thing." "It is already a thing," she said. "I'm just not letting it float away." That was the first thing in the blue folder. It was not evidence for a court. Not then. It was not a weapon. It was proof that one adult had seen me clearly enough to write me down. You may feel that tightness right now, the kind that comes when a small wrong is finally named. If you do, comment the word folder. Not because a folder fixes a life, but because sometimes one plain object becomes the first place the truth is allowed to sit. Stay with me, because that blue folder was still on a table years later, when my mother learned what it had become. Grandma June did not hate my parents. That mattered. She was not the sort of person who called everyone toxic or cut people off because of one argument. She believed in birthdays, casseroles, thank you notes, and showing up with soup when somebody had the flu. She loved her son. I know she did. She kept a photograph of my father at 6 years old on her bedroom dresser, grinning with a missing tooth and holding a fishing pole. But she was not blind. Once, when I was 15, I asked her why Dad never stopped Mom. We were in her garden, tying tomato plants to wooden stakes with strips of old pillowcase. It was July, and the air smelled like wet soil and the metallic green scent tomato leaves leave on your fingers. I remember the sweat under my ponytail and a mosquito whining by my ear. Grandma June took her time answering. "Your father learned peace wrong," she said finally. "What does that mean?" "It means he thinks quiet is the same as good." I pushed a stake deeper into the dirt. "Isn't it?" "No." She tied a strip of cloth in a firm knot. "Sometimes quiet is just where the harm gets comfortable." I thought about that for a long time. In my parents' house, quiet was treated like proof that everything was fine. If I cried in my room, it did not count because the door was closed. If I ate dinner without speaking, my mother called it an improvement. If Tessa took something and I did not ask for it back, my father said, "See? You girls can work it out." But at Grandma June's house, quiet had another shape. It was the radio low in the kitchen while she peeled apples. It was the hum of the ceiling fan over the porch. It was her hand resting on mine for 1 second after I said something hard. It did not erase me. It made room. By the time I was 17, I spent every possible weekend at her house. I told my mother it was because Grandma needed help with chores. My mother liked that explanation. It made me sound useful. The truth was, Grandma June gave me a kind of shelter that did not look dramatic enough for anyone to object to. We cleaned gutters. We labeled boxes in her basement. We went through old warranties, tax bills, insurance papers, and appliance manuals. She taught me the difference between a warranty deed and a quitclaim deed before I learned how to parallel park. She showed me how counties stored records, how liens worked, how names had to match, how a missing middle initial could cause months of trouble. "Details are not small," she said. "Details are where people hide things." That sentence stayed with me. Maybe that is why I ended up becoming a property records specialist. It sounds boring when I say it like that. At parties, if I ever went to parties, people would blink and ask if that meant real estate, sort of. I worked for a firm in Cleveland that helped attorneys, banks, and private buyers trace property histories before sales or lawsuits. Deeds, mortgages, easements, tax liens, probate records, transfers after death, mineral rights nobody had checked since 1947. That was my world. I loved it. There was peace in records. A house could have 3 coats of paint and a new porch. But the county recorder still knew who signed what on March 3, 1998. A person could stand in a kitchen and lie, but if they had filed a mortgage release, I could find it. If they forged a signature badly, I could often spot the pressure difference before the attorney did. I became good with small things, just not the way my mother meant. But before all that, before Cleveland, before the trust, before the afternoon when my family gathered in Grandma June's living room expecting to corner me, there was my 21st birthday. I need you to understand what that birthday meant to me. Not because 21 is magic. It was not about alcohol or freedom or any of the loud things people attach to that age. I had been working since I was 14. I had been taking care of myself in small, tired ways for years. I did not expect my life to change at midnight. But that year, I wanted one dinner. That was all. One dinner where nobody left early because Tessa had a feeling. One cake nobody else picked. One photo where I was not told to move to the end so my sister could stand in the middle. One night where my mother looked at me first. I planned it myself because I knew better than to leave anything open. The dinner was at Bellafiore, a little Italian restaurant on East Whitcomb with red awnings and framed black and white photos of Naples on the walls. It was not expensive in the way city restaurants are expensive, but for me, at 21, it was special. The chicken piccata was $18.95. The tiramisu was $6.50. A glass of house red was $7. I know, because I had looked at the menu online for 3 weeks and done the math. I reserved a table for 6, my parents, Tessa, Grandma June, me, and my friend Lena from work, because Grandma said every birthday needs at least one person there who knows how to laugh for the right reasons. I put down a $40 deposit because Bellafiore had started charging for Friday night reservations after too many no-shows. I paid it on my debit card from Ashbury Credit Union. At the time, I had $326.18 in checking and $900 in savings, which I was not supposed to touch because my car needed tires before winter. I bought my own dress from a clearance rack at Kohl's. Navy blue, short sleeves, tiny white flowers. Original price $48, marked down to $14.40. I still remember how the tag felt between my fingers because I stood in the dressing room and asked myself if buying a birthday dress was childish. Then I bought it anyway. Grandma June paid for the cake. It came from Main Street Bakery, a square vanilla cake with raspberry filling and buttercream frosting. On top, in blue icing, it said, "Happy 21st, Mara." She asked me what color I wanted, and I said blue without thinking. "Blue suits you," she said. My mother wanted to know why we needed a bakery cake when Bellafiore had dessert. "Because it's her birthday," Grandma said. My mother laughed lightly. "Of course. I just mean we don't need to make a production. That was what my joy became whenever it required anyone else to make space. The day of my birthday was October 6, 2016. It rained from morning until almost 4, then stopped in that gray, damp way where everything still drips even after the sky is done. I worked the early shift at O'Malley's office supply, stocking printer paper and ringing up teachers buying poster board. My manager, Beth, gave me a card signed by everybody. Lena taped a tiny bow to my name tag. At 3:15, my mother texted, "Dinner still at 7?" I stared at that message for longer than I should have because part of me had expected an excuse by then. "Yes," I wrote back. "Bellafiore, reservation under Voss." She replied with a thumbs up. I took that thumbs up like a promise. At 5:30, I was home, curling my hair in the bathroom mirror while the old fan rattled above me. Our house had a bathroom with yellow tile from the 1970s and a sink that dripped unless you turned the handle hard to the left. I had one eye done with mascara when Tessa came in without knocking. She was 19 then, wearing leggings, a cropped sweater, and the expression she used when she wanted to be asked what was wrong. "You're using the outlet?" she said. "I'm almost done. I need to straighten my hair. There's an outlet in your room. It smells weird in there." I looked at her in the mirror. "Then open a window." She leaned against the doorframe and watched me. Her eyes moved over my dress, which hung from the towel hook behind me. "That's what you're wearing?" Yes, it's very library. I kept the mascara wand steady. Thanks. I didn't say it was bad. I didn't say you did. Her mouth tightened. That was another family rule. I was not allowed to be openly hurt, but I was also not allowed to be unharmed. If I did not react, Tessa felt cheated. She picked up my lipstick from the sink. It was a soft rose shade I had bought from the drugstore for $5.99. Can I borrow this? No. She blinked. Seriously? It's new. It's lipstick, Mara. It's mine. She dropped it into the sink like it had become dirty. God, you're in a mood. I counted 4 breaths. 1, 2, 3, 4. Then I said, please get out. I need to finish. She laughed once, flat and sharp, and left. That should have warned me. At 6:12, Grandma June arrived with a cake in a white cardboard box tied with string. She came through the front door wearing her good gray coat and carrying the cake with both hands like it was something holy. Look at you, she said when she saw me. I was standing at the bottom of the stairs in my navy dress, holding a pair of black flats because I had not decided whether to wear heels. You look like yourself, she said. It was the best compliment anyone gave me that day. My father came home at 6:24. I know because I looked at the clock over the stove. He smelled like cold air and asphalt dust. He had changed at work into khakis and a green button-down shirt my mother liked. He saw the cake box on the counter and smiled a little. Big night, he said. I smiled back because I was still young enough to take crumbs and call them bread. My mother came downstairs at 6:38 wearing pearl earrings and a cream sweater. She looked nice. My mother always looked nice when other people might see her. Tessa, she called. We're leaving in 10 minutes. No answer. She called again. Still nothing. I felt something shift in my stomach. My mother looked at me. Can you check on your sister? It was my birthday. I was standing there in the dress I bought with my own money, beside a cake my grandmother had carried through the rain, waiting to go to a dinner I had reserved and paid a deposit for. And my mother asked me to check on Tessa. Grandma June said, Diane. Just that. My mother turned. What? Let her stand still for once. The kitchen went quiet. My father looked at the floor. My mother's face changed in a way most people would have missed. The smile stayed, but the warmth drained out. I'm only asking her to knock on a door, she said. I'll do it, my father muttered. He went upstairs. We listened to his steps. 7 up to the landing. 4 down the hall. A knock. Tess? Nothing. Another knock. Then his voice lower. Tessa? My mother moved first. She went up the stairs fast, one hand on the railing. Grandma June's eyes met mine. Stay here, she said softly. But I did not. I followed because I had lived in that house long enough to know when the air was about to become my fault. Tessa was on her bedroom floor. At least that was how it looked at first. She was lying beside her bed with one arm bent over her stomach and her phone near her hand. Her hair was spread out too neatly on the carpet. Her eyes were closed, but not all the way. I could see the little slit of green under her lashes. My mother made a sound like someone had cut her. Tessa, baby. My father knelt beside her. What happened? Tessa breathed in shakily. I don't know. Her voice was weak, but not weak enough to hide the fact that she had been waiting. My mother touched her forehead. Are you sick? Are you dizzy? My chest hurts, Tessa whispered. Those 3 words changed the night. My mother looked at my father. We need to go. Dad nodded. Emergency room? Tessa's eyes opened a little more. She looked past them at me. Then she said, I didn't want to ruin Mara's dinner. I remember the hallway light buzzing above us. I remember the smell of my mother's perfume, white gardenia, too sweet in the narrow space. I remember the edge of the carpet under my toes because I had taken off my shoes downstairs and never put them back on. And I remember knowing, not suspecting, knowing. Tessa's chest did not hurt in any way that scared her. Tessa was not afraid. She was performing fearful, or people who had already bought tickets. My mother turned to me with wet eyes. "Mara, we have to take your sister in." I said, "Okay." That surprised her. I think she expected resistance, which would have made the next part easier for her. If I objected, she could turn my birthday into my selfishness. She could say I cared more about pasta than my sister's health. She could use me as the villain, which had always been the cleanest way to keep Tessa spotless. But I said, okay, because if there was even a 1% chance I was wrong, I did not want to be the person who argued with chest pain. Grandma June came up behind me. "I'll drive Mara to the restaurant," she said. "You call us when you know something." My mother looked startled. "What?" "The reservation is at 7, Grandma said. If Tessa needs the hospital, you take her. Mara can still have dinner." Tessa's eyes opened fully then. My father stood, rubbing the back of his neck. "Mom, this isn't a good time." Grandma June looked at him. "For whom?" He did not answer. My mother stood slowly, one hand pressed to her chest as if she had caught Tessa's pain. "June, really, her sister may be having a medical emergency." "And if she is, you should go," Grandma said. "But there are 6 chairs reserved. 2 can be empty." I loved her for that. I hated that I needed her to say it. My mother's gaze moved to me. "Is that what you want?" There it was. Not anger. Not yet. A soft little trap wrapped in concern. I counted the buttons on her sweater. 6. Pearl-colored, the bottom one slightly loose. "I want Tessa to be okay," I said. "That is not what I asked." "Mara can answer after you get Tessa checked," Grandma said. But my mother kept looking at me. In that moment, I saw the whole machine. Tessa on the floor. My father silent. My grandmother standing between me and the shape of the old story. My mother needing me to either surrender or become ugly. I chose neither. "I think Grandma and I can go," I said. "Lena is already meeting us there. We can save you food." My mother stared as if I had slapped her. Tessa made a tiny noise. My father said, "Mara," just my name, heavy with warning, as if I were wandering near a cliff. "What?" I asked. He looked tired. "Don't do this tonight." I almost laughed. "Do this. Stand there. Wear a dress. Keep a reservation. Turn 21. My mother's voice went cold. "Your sister is on the floor. And you're taking her to the hospital. Because she may be seriously ill. Then go." Silence. 4 seconds. 5. 6. Then Tessa whispered, "It's fine." I knew she'd be mad. That was when my mother's face hardened. Grandma June said, "Tessa." But it was too late. The room had found its script. My mother bent down and helped Tessa sit up. My sister leaned into her like a wounded bird. My father grabbed Tessa's purse from the bed. My mother issued orders in a bright, tight voice. "Harold, car. Mara, call the restaurant. June, please don't make this worse." Grandma June did not move. "I'm taking Mara," she said. My mother turned at the bedroom door. "No, you are not. She is an adult. She is part of this family. For once, act like that includes her." My father flinched. I saw it. I still remember it. A tiny movement around his eyes, like the sentence landed somewhere he had boarded up years before. But he said nothing. My mother gave Grandma June a look I had seen her give cashiers who questioned expired coupons. "This is not the time for one of your little lessons." Grandma June's cheeks colored. "Diane." "No," my mother said. "I am not doing this tonight. My daughter could be having a heart issue, and the 2 of you are turning it into some statement." My daughter. Not our daughter, not Tessa. My daughter. I heard it. Grandma June heard it too. Something in me folded very neatly. Not broke. Folded. Like a letter going into an envelope. I said. I'll cancel dinner. Grandma June turned to me. Mara, it's fine. It was not fine. Fine is the word families use when truth would make dinner impossible. I went downstairs. The kitchen looked exactly as we had left it. The cake box sat on the counter under the warm light. My little black purse was on a chair. My father's keys were gone. Through the front window, I saw the headlights of his car flare white against the damp street. I called Bellafiore. A woman answered on the third ring. I told her we had an emergency and could not make the reservation. She said she was sorry, but the deposit was non-refundable with less than 2 hours' notice. I understand, I said. My voice sounded normal. That felt strange. Behind me, Grandma June came into the kitchen. She put a hand on my shoulder. We can still go somewhere, she said. I looked at the cake box. Can you take it home? Of course. I don't want it here. She was quiet for a moment. Then she picked up the cake box. My mother came down the stairs with Tessa leaning on her. Tessa had changed into a soft pink hoodie. I noticed that. Chest pain, but time to choose a hoodie. My father stood by the front door with his keys in his hand. Grandma June said, I'll follow you to the hospital. My mother's eyes flashed. That's not necessary. I want to hear what the doctor says. Tessa looked panicked for half a second. There. That was the first crack. My mother did not see it, or she saw it and pushed it away. No, she said. Too many people will stress her out. Grandma June looked at Tessa. Will I stress you out, sweetheart? Tessa's mouth opened, then closed. My father said, Mom, please. Please. That was the word he used when he wanted the honest person to stop making the dishonest people uncomfortable. Grandma June's hand tightened around the cake box, saying, Tring. Call me, she said to me, not to them. Then she left through the kitchen door. I wish I had gone with her. For years I wished that. Instead, I stayed. I told myself someone should be home in case they called. I told myself maybe I had been unfair. I told myself chest pain was serious. I told myself my birthday could happen another night. The human mind will build a whole shelter out of excuses when the truth is too cold to stand in. My parents left at 6:57. The reservation was for 7. I stood in the kitchen and counted the seconds after the door closed. 1, 2, 3. At 17, the house settled. At 41, a car passed outside. At 60, the refrigerator clicked on. At 112, I took off my birthday dress. I hung it back on the closet door, not in the closet, because some small, stupid part of me thought I might put it on again when they came home with an apology and takeout. Then I sat at the kitchen table in leggings and an old sweatshirt, still wearing mascara on one eye darker than the other because I had never finished getting ready. Lena called at 7:08. Hey, I'm here. Are you close? I stared at the table. We had to cancel. What? Why? Tessa had chest pain. There was a pause. Oh my God, is she okay? I don't know. Do you want me to come over? I almost said yes. Then I pictured my mother coming home and finding Lena there. Another witness. Another problem. No. It's okay. Mara. I'm fine. There it was again. Fine. Not warm, just fine. Lena exhaled. I'm so sorry. I looked at the empty spot on the counter where the cake had been. Grandma June had taken it, just like I asked. It's okay, I said, but my voice cracked on the second word. Lena heard it. I'm coming over. No. I'm coming over. Lena, please. She went quiet. Then softer, she said. Call me later, okay? I will. I did not. At 7:42, my mother texted. Waiting. One word. At 8:19, my father texted. They are doing tests. At 8:51, Tessa posted on Instagram. A black and white photo of her wrist with a hospital bracelet. Scary night. Pray for me. I looked at that post until the letters blurred. Within 10 minutes, 27 people had liked it. Comments appeared like ants. "Oh no, babe. You're so strong. Poor thing. Praying." My mother commented 3 red hearts. I sat at the kitchen table and counted the comments until I hated myself for counting. At 9:36, Grandma June called. "Are you alone?" "Yes." "Do you want me to come get you?" "No." "You sure?" "No," I said. That was the first honest thing I had said all night. She arrived at 9:58 with the cake. Not the whole cake. One slice in a plastic container, cut clean from the corner with the blue icing flower still on top. She had put a single birthday candle beside it, unlit. "I didn't know if you wanted this," she said. I started crying. Not loudly. I just folded over at the kitchen table and cried into my hands while my grandmother stood beside me and rubbed my back in slow circles. She did not tell me to stop. She did not say it would be okay. She did not defend anyone. After a while, she sat across from me and opened her purse. Out came the blue folder. By then it was thicker. Not huge, but thick enough that the metal prongs had begun to strain. Inside were things I had forgotten. A note about the debate finals. A printed email from my mother telling me I needed to be flexible because Tessa was emotionally fragile. A receipt from when Grandma June had paid my senior activity fee because my parents said money was tight, then bought Tessa a $380 prom dress the same week. A copy of a birthday card from my aunt that Tessa had opened and kept because it had $25 inside. Grandma June took out a fresh page. October 6, 2016. She wrote slowly. Mara's 21st birthday dinner canceled after Tessa claimed chest pain. Diane and Harold refused June's offer to take Mara to dinner. Tessa posted hospital bracelet online before diagnosis. I wiped my face. "Why are you writing it like that?" "So you won't have to remember it alone." "It doesn't matter." Grandma looked up. Her eyes were soft, but her voice was firm. "Do not say that in my house." "We're not in your house." "You know what I mean." I looked down at the slice of cake. The blue icing had smudged the lid of the container. "What if she's really sick?" I whispered. "Then we will be glad she got care." "And if she's not?" Grandma June put the cap back on her pen. "Then the truth will still be the truth." My parents came home at 10:44. I remember the sound of the garage door first, then the kitchen door, then my mother's voice, tired and sharp. "Mara?" Grandma June closed the blue folder. Tessa came in wearing the pink hoodie, hospital bracelet still on her wrist, looking pale in a careful way. My father followed with a white discharge packet in his hand. My mother set her purse on the counter and looked at Grandma June. "You're here." "I am." My mother's gaze dropped to the plastic cake container in front of me. Something like annoyance crossed her face. I asked, "Is Tessa okay?" My father cleared his throat. "Tests were normal." Grandma June said, "Good." My mother shot her a look. "They said it was probably anxiety." Probably anxiety. That was the diagnosis that swallowed my birthday. Tessa leaned against the counter. It felt real. I said nothing. My mother looked at me. She was scared. "I'm glad she's okay." My voice was flat. I could hear it. So could everyone else. Tessa's eyes filled. "You're mad at me." I counted the cabinet handles behind her. 8. "I didn't say that." "You didn't have to." My mother stepped closer. "Mara, don't make her feel worse." Grandma June said, "Diane, stop." "No, I won't stop." My mother's voice rose, but only a little. She never liked sounding uncontrolled. We spent the evening in the emergency room. Tessa was terrified. "And we come home to this." She pointed at the cake. "This." My birthday had become an accusation sitting in a plastic container. I said, "Grandma brought me a slice. It feels pointed." Grandma June laughed once, not because it was funny. "A piece of her own cake feels pointed to you?" My father said. Mom. She turned on him. Harold, don't. He closed his mouth. My mother looked back at me. I know you're disappointed, but tonight was not about a restaurant. I stared at her. There are moments when a person gives you one last tiny bridge, a chance to meet them somewhere human. My mother could have said, I'm sorry your birthday was ruined. She could have said, we'll make it up to you. She could have said, I know this hurts. Instead, she reached for the old sentence, not everything is about you. There it was, clean, familiar, final. I looked at my father. I do not know why. Maybe because some part of me still believed he had a hidden line, a place where he would finally step forward and say, Diane, enough. It's her birthday. Let her be hurt. He looked at the discharge papers in his hand, not at me. That was the night I stopped waiting for him. Grandma June stood. Mara, get your coat. My mother blinked. Excuse me? She's coming home with me. She lives here. She can sleep at my house. Tessa wiped under one eye. No tear came off on her finger. My mother crossed her arms. You are not taking my daughter out of this house because she's upset over dinner. Grandma June picked up the blue folder. My mother noticed it then. What is that? Something that belongs to Mara. What is it? A place for things people try to make disappear. My mother's face went still. I had never seen her look at Grandma June that way. Not angry, not dismissive, afraid maybe, though I did not understand why yet. It's a folder, she said. Grandma June slid it into her purse. Yes. My mother gave a small laugh. This is ridiculous. No, Grandma said. Ridiculous was leaving one daughter alone on her birthday because the other one wanted an audience. Tessa gasped. I didn't fake it. Grandma looked at her. I did not use that word. You meant it. Did I? Tessa's mouth trembled. She looked at my mother, waiting for rescue. My mother stepped forward. June, you need to leave. I will. Grandma turned to me. With Mara. I stood. My knees felt strange, loose. Like I had been sitting for years instead of hours. My mother's eyes narrowed. Mara. There was a warning in it. I walked past her and went upstairs. In my room, I packed a canvas tote with pajamas, my phone charger, my work shirt, and the navy dress still hanging on the closet door. I put the lipstick in the side pocket even though I had not worn it. My hands shook the whole time. When I came back, Dusan, my father was standing by the sink. He looked at the tote. Mar, he said quietly. I stopped. For 1 second, I thought maybe he would say it. Maybe late, but still something. He rubbed a thumb along the edge of the discharge papers. Don't drag this out. 4 words. That was what he gave me. I nodded. Not because I agreed. Because if I spoke, I would break in a way they could blame on me. Grandma June drove me to her house in silence. The roads were slick, shining under the streetlights. My birthday dress lay folded in my lap. We passed Bellafiore at 11:07. The red awnings were dark. One server was wiping down the front window from inside. I watched the restaurant slide past and felt something inside me go very still. At Grandma's house, she made tea. Earl Grey for her. Peppermint for me because she said caffeine after crying was punishment. She put the cake slice on a blue plate and stuck the candle in the icing. I'm not singing, she said. I laughed through my swollen nose. Thank God. She lit the candle. The flame shook once, then steadied. Make a wish, she said. I looked at that tiny light. At 21, I should have wished for love, or money, or a better car, or a family that could look at me without measuring what I cost. Instead, I wished to stop needing them to choose me. I blew out the candle. The smoke rose in one thin line, then vanished. Grandma June cut the cake with the side of a fork and pushed half toward me. We ate in her kitchen at 11:23 at night, under the yellow light, while rain started again against the windows. The cake was soft and sweet, and tasted like raspberries and salt, because I was still crying a little. After we finished, Grandma washed the plate. I dried it. Then she took the blue folder from her purse and placed it on the table between us. "I want you to listen to me," she said. I sat down. She touched the folder, not opening it. "You are not crazy. You are not selfish. You are not hard to love. But people who benefit from your silence will call your memory dramatic." I looked at the blue tab with my name on it. "Someday," she said, "you may not need this. I hope you don't. But if you do, you'll have it." "For what?" She smiled sadly. "For the day they ask you to forget." I did not know then how exact she was being. At 21, I thought the folder was about old hurts. A strange but loving habit from a grandmother who had spent too many years with filing cabinets. I did not understand that she was teaching me a language my family could not twist. Dates, receipts, signatures, records. I slept in her spare room that night under a quilt with tiny green squares. I woke up at 6:12 to the smell of coffee and bacon. For 3 seconds before memory returned, I felt safe. Then my phone buzzed. A text from my mother. "You embarrassed us last night." I stared at it. Not "happy birthday again," not "I'm sorry," not "come home, you embarrassed us." A second message arrived before I could answer. "Your grandmother had no right to interfere." Then a third. "Tessa is very hurt." I set the phone face down on the nightstand and counted the flowers on the wallpaper. Tiny faded pink roses. I counted 34 before I stopped shaking. Grandma June knocked softly. "You awake?" "Yes." She came in carrying a mug of peppermint tea. "Your mother?" I nodded. Grandma set the mug beside me. "You don't have to answer." That was a new thought. In my parents' house, messages were hooks. If my mother sent one, I had to bite. If I did not, she would send my father. If I still did not, Tessa would post something vague online about being abandoned by people she loved. "You don't have to answer," Grandma said again, as if she knew the words needed a second trip through me. So I didn't. At 7:03, my father called. I let it ring. At 7:05, he called again. At 7:06, my mother texted. "This silent treatment is childish." At 7:10, Tessa texted. "I hope your dinner was worth making me feel like a burden." I looked at that one for a long time. There was no dinner. She knew there was no dinner, but the story had already changed in her hands. In her version, I had gone out and celebrated while she suffered. Maybe she had already told people that. Maybe by breakfast, half the town would believe it. My thumb hovered over the screen. Grandma June walked past the bedroom door and said, "Breakfast in 5. I put the phone down. I did not answer. That was the first time, not the last. When I went home later that day, my mother was waiting in the kitchen. The cake box was gone. My birthday cards, unopened, were stacked on the counter like bills. Tessa sat at the table wearing the hospital bracelet still, though she had been discharged 12 hours earlier. She had placed her arm on top of the table so nobody could miss it. My father stood by the coffee maker. My mother said, "We need to talk." I stood by the doorway with my tote over one shoulder. "Okay." She looked disappointed that I did not sound afraid. "Your behavior last night hurt this family." I glanced at my father. He looked into his coffee. My mother continued, "You made your sister feel like her health was an inconvenience." I looked at Tessa. "Did you tell Mom I said that?" Tessa's eyes widened. "No." "Then why does she think it?" My mother cut in. "Because you made it clear." "How?" "Your attitude." There it was, the invisible crime, the one nobody had to prove. I set the tote down. "I said I was glad she was okay." "You said it coldly." "Was I supposed to be warm?" My father made a low sound. "Mara." I turned to him. "What?" He looked startled. I did not usually ask. My mother stepped in. "Do not speak to your father like that." I laughed then. I wish I could say it was dignified, but it came out small and broken. I'm sorry, I said. Which tone should I use for the people who threw away my birthday and then told me I embarrassed them? Tessa burst into tears. Real tears this time, or close enough. My mother went to her immediately. See? This is what I mean. I watched her wrap an arm around Tessa's shoulders. The old ache rose in me. Sharp, familiar. A child's ache wearing an adult body. And then, for the first time, something else rose with it. Tiredness. Not sad tired, not sleepy tired. A deep, clean exhaustion. I was tired of explaining pain to people who graded the explanation instead of hearing the hurt. I'm going upstairs, I said. My mother looked at me. We are not finished. I am. The kitchen went silent. Even Tessa stopped crying for a second. I picked up my tote and walked upstairs. My mother called after me. Mara, come back here. I kept walking. Mara. I reached my room and shut the door. Not slammed. Shut. My hands were shaking again, but under the fear, there was a thin new thread. I had done one thing, one tiny thing. I had left a conversation that was built to erase me. That was how it began. Not with a dramatic escape, not with a suitcase at midnight, just a door closed softly in a beige house on Milner Road, while my mother stood downstairs realizing I had not stayed where she put me. For the next month, they punished me in small ways. My mother stopped buying the coffee creamer I liked, then acted confused when I mentioned it. Tessa borrowed my car without asking and returned it with the gas light on. My father told me I was making the house tense. My mother canceled the small family birthday dinner she had promised to reschedule because, in her words, the spirit around it just isn't healthy right now. I worked. I went to class. I spent weekends at Grandma June's house. And every time something happened, Grandma did not tell me to fight. She told me to write it down. At first, I hated that. Writing it down felt petty. It felt like becoming the kind of person who stored grudges in neat rows. I told her that once while we were sorting old utility bills at her table. She slid a stack of papers into a folder and said, "A grudge is when you keep pain alive to feed it. A record is when you stop people from burying it." That stayed with me too. So I wrote things down. November 2nd, Tessa took car, returned empty, denied it. November 9th. Mom said rescheduled birthday dinner canceled because my attitude made it uncomfortable. November 18th, Dad said I should apologize to keep peace. Small things. Ugly things. Things that would sound silly one by one if I tried to explain them to someone at a grocery store. But together, they made a map. By Christmas, I had stopped asking my parents for anything that mattered. That holiday was the first time I really saw how far my mother would go to keep the picture pretty. We hosted Christmas Eve. My mother made ham with pineapple rings, green bean casserole, mashed potatoes, and a cranberry salad. Nobody liked, except Aunt Pam. The house smelled like brown sugar and furniture polish. Tessa wore a red sweater dress and told everyone she was still dealing with cardiac anxiety from her terrifying episode in October. Cardiac anxiety, that was what she called it. She touched her chest while she said it. Aunt Pam gasped. Uncle Ron asked if she was seeing a specialist. My mother looked grave and said they were monitoring things. My father carved ham. Grandma June sat beside me at the end of the table, quiet. I counted how many times Tessa referenced the hospital. 6 before dessert. The 7th came when Aunt Pam asked me how school was going. I had opened my mouth to answer when Tessa sighed and said, "I'm just trying not to stress about grades right now. Stress can trigger symptoms." My mother reached for her hand. Aunt Pam turned to Tessa. Question gone. Mara gone. I looked at my plate. Grandma June leaned close and whispered, 22 seconds. I blinked. What? She gave you 22 seconds that time. I looked at her. Her mouth twitched. I laughed into my napkin, silently, shoulders shaking. That laugh saved me from crying into my mashed potatoes. Later, when everyone moved to the living room for gifts, my mother handed Tessa a small box wrapped in silver paper. Inside was a necklace with a tiny gold heart. Tessa squealed. My mother said it reminded her how precious life was after the scare. Then she handed me an envelope. Inside was a $25 gas card. Practical, dependable, small. Thank you, I said. Grandma June watched me. When she gave me my gift, it was a heavy rectangular box wrapped in brown paper and tied with blue ribbon. Inside was a leather portfolio with a zipper, the kind professionals carry into meetings. It smelled rich and clean, like new shoes and paper. My initials were pressed into the corner. MV. I thought you needed something for your records, she said. My mother laughed lightly. Records? She's 21, June, not an attorney. Grandma looked at me, not at her. Not yet anything she doesn't choose. I ran my fingers over the initials. For the first time that night, I felt seen. Not as useful. Not as difficult. Not as the opposite of Tessa. Seen. That portfolio became mine in a way few things had. I carried class papers in it. Job applications, receipts, notes from Grandma. Later, copies of deeds. Later still, the documents my mother would demand I ignore. But at 21, I only knew it was beautiful and heavy and mine. The family kept talking around me. I held the portfolio in my lap and counted the stitches along the zipper. 48 on one side. 48 on the other. Even. Certain. Closed unless I opened it. I liked that. The strange thing about being treated like the practical one is that people forget practical people can make plans. For a long time, mine were small. I planned how to get through dinner without giving Tessa a sentence she could use later. I planned which shifts to take so I could pay for textbooks without asking my parents. I planned when to do laundry so my mother could not say I was making the house look messy. I planned my exits from rooms the way some people plan vacations. I did not call it survival then. I called it being easy. That was what my family had trained me to be. Easy to move. Easy to delay. Easy to disappoint. If a plan involved me and Tessa needed something, I became flexible. If money was short, I became understanding. If my mother forgot to tell me about a family event until the morning of, I became available. Being easy made everyone else comfortable. It also made me disappear. After my 21st birthday, Grandma June started inviting me over every Wednesday night. She said she needed help digitizing old paperwork, which was partly true. She had boxes in her basement labeled by year, and she wanted important documents scanned before mildew or mice got ideas. But I knew she also wanted a reason for me to have somewhere to go. I would drive to Alder Street after work, usually with a cheap sandwich in my passenger seat, and arrive around 6. In winter, her porch light glowed yellow through the bare maple branches. In spring, the front walk smelled like damp soil and hyacinths. She always had tea ready. We worked at her dining room table, not the kitchen table. The dining room table was for serious sorting. She would lay out a vinyl tablecloth to protect the wood, set a small scanner near the wall, and give me stacks. Read before you file, she would say. So I read. Old tax bills, insurance declarations, mortgage releases, my grandfather's death certificate from 2003, utility receipts, appliance warranties for machines that had died before I finished middle school, deeds from the 1970s written in language that felt stiff and proud. At first, I thought she was just teaching me how grown-up life worked. Then one night in February, she handed me a copy of a warranty deed and said, "Tell me what you see." The paper was from 1984. The grantor was a couple I did not know. The grantee was June Voss, unmarried woman. The legal description was long and dry, full of lot numbers and subdivision names. I read it twice. "You bought this house by yourself," I said. Her eyes warmed. "I did." "I thought Grandpa lived here." "He did. Later." I looked up. Grandma June leaned back in her chair. "Your grandfather moved in after we married, but this house was mine first." There was a note in her voice I had never heard before. Not pride exactly. Protection. Did that matter? I asked. It mattered to me. She took the deed back and slid it into a plastic sleeve. I was 27, she said. People still talked to women like we needed permission to understand numbers. The banker asked if my father would be joining the meeting. I told him my father had been DISA at 9 years and had no plans to attend. I smiled. She smiled too. Then I signed every page with my own hand. I looked around the dining room, the old wallpaper with tiny blue vines, the built-in cabinet full of china cups, the framed photograph of my grandfather holding a stringer of fish. I had always thought of that house as Grandma's because she lived there. That night I understood it was Grandma's because she had chosen it, paid for it, and kept it. Never confuse being loved with being owned, she said. I did not answer. The words sat too close to something sore. She reached across the table and tapped the portfolio she had given me for Christmas. Put a copy in there. Of your deed? Yes. Why? Practice. That was her answer whenever she wanted me to learn something before I knew why. Practice. So I put a copy of her deed in my portfolio, behind my class schedule, and in front of a receipt for brake pads. I did not know that one day I would carry a different version of that deed into the same dining room while my mother tried to convince everyone I was stealing. My life outside Grandma's house kept moving, because life has a rude way of doing that, even when your heart is tired. I finished my associate degree in paralegal studies at Cuyahoga Community College. I worked at O'Malley's until they cut hours, then took a receptionist job at a small title agency in Parma. The office was wedged between a dental clinic and a place that sold uniforms for nurses. It had brown carpet, buzzing fluorescent lights, and a coffee maker that tasted like plastic no matter how often we cleaned it. I loved that job too. Not the phones. I hated the phones. But I loved the files. I loved opening a search package and tracing a property backward through time. I loved seeing how a house moved from one person to another, not through family stories or assumptions, but through instruments, dates, stamps, and signatures. The senior examiner there, Mr. Alvarez, noticed. He was in his 60s, with silver hair, neat handwriting, and no patience for sloppy work. On my third week, he found me at the copier holding 2 mortgage assignments side by side. "What are you doing?" he asked. I thought I was in trouble. "The notary commission expires before the second assignment date," I said. "But the stamp is the same." He took the papers from me. He looked once, then he looked again. He said. That was all. The next morning, there was a stack of old files on my desk with a yellow sticky note. Find 3 things wrong. I found 5. By the end of 6 months, I was doing more than answering phones. By the end of a year, Mr. Alvarez was teaching me how to read legal descriptions without getting lost in the weeds. He taught me where mistakes like to hide: old divorces, probate transfers, tax liens paid but never released, siblings who assumed a handshake was the same as an estate plan. Families are the worst chain of title, he told me once. I laughed because I thought he was joking. He was not. At home, my family treated my job like a clerical hobby. My mother called it office work. Tessa called it house paperwork. My father once asked if I was still doing files. I stopped explaining after a while. Explaining required interest on the other side. Tessa, meanwhile, was drifting in the way people drift when other people keep building docks for them. She enrolled in cosmetology school, left after 4 months because the instructor had negative energy, then tried event planning because she had a gift for beauty, then sold skincare online for a company with rose gold packaging and impossible promises. Every new plan came with a family announcement. Every ending came with a story about who had failed her. My mother believed each version, or said she did. That was harder to forgive. It would have been one thing if Tessa were a brilliant liar and my parents were helpless. But Tessa's lies often had loose threads hanging everywhere. My mother simply refused to pull them. When Tessa said her cosmetology instructor had bullied her, my mother did not ask why Tessa had missed 11 classes. When Tessa said her event planning partner stole her client list, My mother did not ask why the list had only 3 names on it, and one was our cousin. When Tessa said the skincare business was basically a startup, my father did not ask why he had just paid $600 for inventory sitting in our garage. They asked me questions. Why was I distant? Why did I never support my sister? Why did I always remember the worst? That last one became my mother's favorite. "You have a habit of keeping score," she told me one Sunday after lunch. We were at the kitchen table on Milner Road. I had stopped by because my father said he needed help printing insurance forms. That turned out to mean he needed me to reset the printer because Tessa had tried to connect it to her phone and change the wireless settings. My mother poured coffee like she was hosting a talk show. "You know, Mara, it concerns me," she said. "What does?" "This way you hold on to things." I looked up from the printer manual. She folded her hands. "The birthday, for example." My stomach tightened. "I didn't bring that up." "You don't have to. It's in your energy." Tessa, sitting at the counter scrolling her phone, made a soft sound of agreement. I counted the sugar packets in the little ceramic bowl. 9 white, 3 pink, 4 yellow. "My energy is setting up Dad's printer," I said. My father coughed into his mug. My mother's eyes cooled. That tone. I put the manual down. "What tone should I use?" She sighed. "This is what I mean. Everything becomes a challenge." "No. Some things become a pattern." Tessa looked up. "Oh my God." My mother held up a hand. "No, let her talk. Apparently she has been waiting." I had not been waiting. That was the trick. Had been quiet so long that any sentence sounded like a speech. I should have stopped. I knew that. But I was 23 by then, and there are ages when your backbone grows faster than your caution. I said, "Tessa lied about chest pain on my birthday." Tessa's mouth fell open. My mother stood. "That is a cruel thing to say." She posted from the hospital before any doctor saw her. She was scared. She had time to choose a filter. The room went dead silent. My father closed his eyes. Tessa whispered, "You're disgusting." I looked at her. "Maybe, but I'm not wrong." My mother slapped her palm on the table, not hard enough to scare anyone outside the room, hard enough to remind me who ran it. "You will apologize to your sister." I looked at Tessa. She was crying now, face crumpled, but I had seen her check the reflection in the microwave door before the first tear fell. "No," I said. One word. Small. Clear. My mother stared. My father said, "Mara, come on." I stood and picked up my purse. The printer was still blinking. My mother said, "If you walk out right now, you are proving my point." I almost smiled. "Then I guess your point is finally useful." I left. My hands shook so badly in the car that I had to sit in the driveway for 2 minutes before I could turn the key. But I left. If you have ever said one honest sentence and watched a whole room punish you for it, you know this exact feeling. Comment the word deed if you know what it is like to have proof in your bones before anyone else will admit it. And stay with me, because my family spent years calling me dramatic for remembering until the day remembering became the only thing that protected me. After that Sunday, I moved out. Not immediately. I was not rich. I did not have some movie scene moment where I packed a suitcase and drove into a bright new life. I had $1,142 in savings, a car with a rattling heat shield, and student loans waiting around the corner like bad weather. But I started looking. I found a room for rent in Lakewood in an old duplex with uneven floors and radiators that clanked at night. The landlord, Mrs. Petrova, lived downstairs and grew basil in coffee cans on the back steps. My room was small enough that the bed had to sit against the wall, but it had 2 windows and a closet that locked. The rent was $425 a month, utilities included. I signed the lease on a Tuesday in May. My mother said I was overreacting. My father said it was a bad financial decision. Tessa said, "Must be nice to just abandon everyone." Grandma June brought a laundry basket full of cleaning supplies, 2 bath towels, a jar of instant coffee, and a screwdriver set. "Every woman needs tools," she said. Then she tightened the loose knob on my closet door. That first night in the rented room, I lay on a mattress on the floor and listened to the radiator bang like someone trapped in the wall. I cried. For 20 minutes. Not because I regretted leaving, because nobody from my house called to ask if I was safe. My mother texted at 9:14, "Your father is very hurt." That was all. I put the phone face down on a cardboard box labeled books. Then I slept better than I had in years. Distance changed things, but not in the clean way people promise. I did not become instantly free. My family still knew how to reach into me. My mother could still ruin a morning with 6 words. Tessa could still make me feel 12 years old with one sigh. My father's silence still felt like a locked door I kept trying old keys in. But distance gave me time. Time to feel the first hit and not answer. Time to ask myself if guilt meant I had done something wrong or if it meant I had disobeyed training. Time to drive to Grandma June's house instead of my parents' house. My life grew in careful layers. I got promoted at the title agency. I took night classes toward a bachelor's degree in legal studies. I bought a used gray Honda Civic for $6,300 after my old Saturn failed inspection. I learned which grocery store marked down meat on Wednesdays. I learned that a quiet apartment with mismatched furniture could feel more like home than a house with my name on the mailbox. I also learned that my mother liked me better at a distance she could narrate. When relatives asked why I was not around as much, she said, "Mara is busy finding herself." Finding herself, as if I were lost somewhere inconvenient. When I missed Sunday dinner because I had to work, she said I was prioritizing independence right now. When I did come, she treated me like a guest who had been rude to the furniture. Tessa's life became bigger and blurrier. She moved back home twice. She got engaged once to a man named Kyle who owned a boat he could not afford and called every woman sweetheart. The engagement ended after 6 weeks because, according to Tessa, he was intimidated by her ambition. According to the screenshots she accidentally sent to the wrong cousin, Kyle had asked her to stop using his credit card for business expenses. My mother wore black the weekend after the breakup. Not full black. She was not ridiculous. Just a black cardigan over a gray dress, like grief had a dress code, but she did not want to be obvious. My father paid off part of Tessa's card. Again, quietly. When Grandma June turned 80, I planned her birthday lunch at her favorite place, a little cafe called Maribel's that served chicken salad with grapes and pecans. I ordered a lemon cake. I invited my parents and Tessa because Grandma wanted them there. My mother arrived 20 minutes late with Tessa, who was wearing sunglasses indoors. "Tessa has had a migraine all morning," my mother whispered loudly. Tessa accepted hugs with one hand pressed to her temple. Grandma June watched her for a moment, then said, "The patio may be too bright. We can sit inside." Tessa hesitated. She had expected attention, not accommodation. There is a difference. Attention lets you remain the center. Accommodation solves the problem and asks nothing more. "No, it's fine," Tessa said. Grandma smiled. "Good." The lunch was almost pleasant for 23 minutes. I know because I counted. Then Tessa announced she might be moving to Florida to help launch a wellness retreat with a woman she met online. My mother gasped with admiration. My father looked worried, but said nothing. Aunt Pam asked if there would be investors. I asked, "Have you met this woman in person?" Tessa stared at me. "Why would you ask it like that?" "Like what?" "Like I'm stupid." I asked if you met her. My mother said, "Mara." Grandma June put down her fork. "It's a fair question." Tessa's cheeks flushed. "Of course you'd take her side." "I'm not taking a side," Grandma said. "I'm asking whether the retreat has a business license." Tessa stood so fast her chair rocked backward. "I can't do this." My mother followed her inside. My father stayed at the table, staring at his plate. Grandma June picked up her iced tea and took a slow sip. Aunt Pam whispered, "Well, Grandma set the glass down. The chicken salad is good. That was how she was. She did not chase storms that had been invited to perform. Later, in the parking lot, my mother cornered me near my Civic. You couldn't just let your grandmother have a nice birthday? I looked at her. It amazed me, even then, how quickly she could turn the room upside down and hand me the broken pieces. I planned the lunch, I said. You know what I mean. No, Mom, I don't think I do anymore. Her lips tightened. Your sister is trying. At what? That was unnecessary. Was it? She leaned closer. Her perfume was different that year, something powdery and expensive. You have become very hard. I thought of my little rented room, my night classes, my scanner app full of receipts, my grandmother's blue folder, my own name pressed into leather. No, I said. I think I became less soft in the places you used to press. For once, she had no answer. My father watched from 10 feet away, still silent. Grandma June's health began changing the next year. Slowly at first, small things. She forgot the name of a neighbor's dog. She left tea steeping until it turned black. She got tired after grocery shopping and pretended she only sat down because the cat wanted company, even though she had not owned a cat since 1999. Then came the diagnosis. Congestive heart failure. Manageable, the doctor said. Serious, but manageable. New pills. Less salt, more appointments. A scale in the bathroom to track fluid. A folder of discharge instructions I read 3 times at her kitchen table while she pretended not to watch my face. I'm not dying this week, she said. You don't know that. Nobody knows that. That's what makes weekly planners so brave. I laughed because she wanted me to. But I was scared. Fear for someone who has loved you well is different from fear inside a family that uses crisis as currency. It is clean, painful, but clean. No performance, no suspicion. When Grandma June said her chest felt tight, I believed her. When she said she was tired, I sat down beside her. When she said not to fuss, I fussed anyway, and she let me because love can be annoying without being manipulative. I started taking her to appointments. My father came twice. The first time, he sat in the waiting room answering work emails. The second time, he said he could not keep missing work and asked if I could handle the routine stuff. I handled it. My mother visited with casseroles she photographed before putting in the fridge. She called Grandma Mom Voss in a bright voice and talked about sodium like she had discovered medicine. Tessa came once and cried in the driveway because hospitals reminded her of her own heart trauma. She had never been admitted. She had spent 3 hours in an emergency room and left with normal test results. Grandma watched Tessa weep against my mother's shoulder and whispered to me, "Do you think she invoices by the tear?" I choked on my water. "Grandma, I'm old, not blind." That was the year the paperwork changed. I did not know it at first. Looking back, I can see signs. A lawyer's card on Grandma's desk. A locked file box that had not been there before. More questions about my job. More casual conversations that were not casual at all. One Wednesday night, after we had sorted medical bills into paid and pending, she asked, "Do you know what a transfer on death designation does in this state?" I was washing mugs at the sink. "It lets real estate pass outside probate if it's set up right." "What can go wrong?" I dried my hands. Bad legal description. Wrong names. Beneficiary dies first. People assume it covers more than it does. Family members don't understand it and try to fight anyway. She nodded. Good. I turned. Why? Curiosity. Grandma. She smiled. Practice. There was that word again. A few weeks later, she asked me to drive her to an attorney's office in Fairview Park. The building was a converted house with a ramp on the side and a brass sign by the door. Klein Morrow, estate planning, real estate law. I parked under a sycamore tree. "Do you want me to come in?" I asked. "No." That stung a little, though I tried not to show it. She touched my hand. "Not because I don't trust you. Because some things need clean edges." I nodded. She went inside with her cane and her brown purse. I sat in the car for 1 hour and 12 minutes, watching leaves skate across the windshield. I counted every person who entered the building. 3. A man with a briefcase, a woman with a toddler, a delivery driver carrying flowers. When Grandma came out, she looked tired but peaceful. "Everything okay?" I asked. She buckled her seatbelt. "It will be." "What does that mean?" "It means drive me to Mitchell's. I want ice cream." She ordered butter pecan in a cup and ate it slowly with a plastic spoon while I sat across from her trying not to ask questions. Finally, she said, "You know, Mara, some people think inheritance is about who loved the loudest." I looked at her. "It isn't," she said. "It is about responsibility and truth." "What did you do?" She smiled, but her eyes were wet. "I made sure my wishes have witnesses." That was all she would say. Part of me was hurt she did not tell me more. Another part of me respected it. Grandma June had spent her whole life watching people treat women's choices like rough drafts. If she wanted clean edges, she deserved them. I did not know that my name was already inside the documents. I did not know she had placed the house on Alder Street into a revocable living trust, with herself as trustee while living and me as successor trustee and sole beneficiary of the house. I did not know she had written a letter explaining why. I did not know she had given copies to her attorney, to a bank officer she trusted, and to the county recorder through a properly filed deed. I did not know because she wanted me protected from accusation. That was Grandma June's last great kindness before the end. She did not give me the house in a way that asked me to defend my worth while she was alive. She made the choice quietly, legally, and completely. Then she kept loving all of us as much as truth allowed. Her decline came in pieces: a hospital stay in March, a fall in June, more pills, a walker she hated. I started sleeping at her house 2 nights a week, then 3. My rented room in Lakewood became a place where I collected mail and changed clothes. My parents noticed only when it affected them. My father called one Saturday morning. "Your mother says you've been at Mom's a lot." "Yes." "How is she?" "Tired." A pause. "Does she need anything?" "She needs people to visit without making her host them." He sighed. "That about your mother?" "If it fits." "Mara." I waited. He said, "You know your mom doesn't handle sickness well." I closed my eyes. "No, Dad. She handles sickness very well when it gives her a role." He was quiet. I could hear a television in the background. Probably golf. He always watched golf with the sound low, as if even leisure had to apologize for itself. Finally, he said, "That's not fair." "Maybe not." Another silence. Then softer. "She's still your mother." There it was. The sentence people use when they have run out of reasons but still want obedience. "And June is yours," I said. He did not answer. I hung up first. That night, Grandma June found me crying over a stack of pharmacy receipts. "Oh, honey," she said. "Did Harold call?" I wiped my face with my sleeve. "How did you know?" "My son has the emotional timing of a smoke alarm wit. It's a dying battery." I laughed despite myself. She eased into the chair beside me. Her hands were thinner now. The veins stood up like blue thread under paper skin. "He loves you," she said. I looked away. "I know that doesn't fix it," she added. "I'm not saying it to fix it." "Then why say it?" "Because one day, when you tell the truth, I don't want you to think truth requires hate." I swallowed. Grandma rested her hand on mine. "Your father chose quiet too many times," she said. "That is true. Your mother chose control too many times. Tessa chose performance too many times. Also true. But if you let them make you cruel, they get the last edit." I looked at her. "I don't feel cruel." "Good." "I feel tired." "That's different." She squeezed my hand. "Truth is a scalpel," she said. "Not a hammer. Don't swing it just because you finally have it." I did not understand how much I would need that sentence. The funeral was on a cold Monday in November. Grandma June died at 3:18 a.m. on November 7, 2021, with my hand around hers and rain tapping lightly against the window. She had been in her own bed, which mattered to her. Her lavender soap was still in the bathroom. Her reading glasses were on the nightstand. A half-finished crossword puzzle lay beside them, the clue for 14 across unanswered. I counted her breaths at the end because I did not know what else to do. 7 seconds between, then 10, then none. I said, "Grandma?" The room did not answer. For a while I stayed there holding her hand, because letting go felt like agreeing to something impossible. My father arrived at 4:02. He looked older in the doorway, hair flattened on one side, jacket zipped wrong. For once my mother was not with him. He walked to the bed and stopped. "Mom," he said. One word, a child's word. I stepped back. He sat beside the bed and put his face in both hands. I had never seen my father cry like that. Not polite tears, not red eyes at a graveside. His shoulders shook. His breath broke. He reached for her hand and held it the way I had. For a moment, my anger had nowhere to stand. He was just a son whose mother was gone. I put a hand on his shoulder. He covered it with his for half a second. Then my mother arrived. The room changed. She came in wearing makeup, which I noticed and then hated myself for noticing. She hugged my father, then looked around as if checking whether the scene had been arranged properly. She asked which funeral home had been called. She asked if the hospice nurse was on her way. She asked whether someone had contacted Tessa. Then she looked at me. "You were here?" I had been caring for Grandma 3 nights a week for months. "Yes," I said. Her eyes moved over my wrinkled sweatshirt, my messy hair, my bare feet. "You should have called us sooner." "She died 10 minutes before I called Dad." My mother pressed her lips together. "I just mean no one should have been alone with that." I almost said she wasn't alone, but I did not want to spend the first hour after Grandma's death teaching my mother the difference between absence and solitude. Tessa arrived at 4:47 in leggings, boots, and a long beige coat. She cried in the hallway before entering the bedroom, loud enough that the hospice nurse paused while filling out forms. When she finally came in, she kissed Grandma's forehead and whispered, "My sweet angel," though Grandma had once told me privately that being called an angel made her want to bite someone. I looked at the floor. Grief makes hypocrites of people sometimes. I tried to be generous, I really did. But then Tessa took a selfie on the porch at sunrise with red eyes and a caption about losing the woman who taught me unconditional love. And generosity became work. The funeral planning showed me what would come. My mother took charge before anyone asked her to. She called the church, chose flowers, corrected the obituary draft, and told the funeral director that June had always loved soft pink, which was not true. Grandma June hated pink flowers at funerals. She said they looked like someone had tried to make death cute. She wanted white lilies and blue delphinium, I said. My mother looked at me across the funeral director's desk. "Mara, this is not the time to micromanage." I stared at her. The funeral director, a gentle man named Mr. Havel, cleared his throat. "We can certainly include blue delphinium." My mother smiled at him. "Of course, whatever the family wants." The family. A word that somehow expanded or shrank, depending on whether my mother needed my labor or my silence. At the funeral, Tessa cried into a lace handkerchief she had bought that morning. My father looked hollow. My mother greeted people with both hands wrapped around theirs, accepting comfort like a hostess accepting coats. I stood near the guest book with a box of tissues. Dependable, useful, small. People told me how much Grandma loved me. That helped and hurt in equal measure. Mrs. Alton from down the street squeezed my arm and said, "Your grandmother talked about you every time I saw her." Every time. Mr. Alvarez came from Parma and stood quietly in the back. He shook my hand after the service and said, "She must have been something." "She was." He nodded. "That explains you." I had to turn away for a second. After the burial, there was a lunch in the church hall. Ham sandwiches, pasta salad, coffee in big silver urns, lemon bars cut into squares. My mother moved from table to table, telling stories that made her sound closer to Grandma than she had been. Tessa leaned against our cousin Becca and whispered about how hard it was to lose my second mother. I stepped outside behind the church because the air in the hall had become too thick. It was cold enough to sting my nose. The parking lot smelled like wet leaves and exhaust. I stood by the brick wall and counted the cars. 29. Then the church door opened. My father came out. For once, he did not pretend he had found me by accident. "Hey," he said. "Hey." He stood beside me, hands in his coat pockets. For a minute, neither of us spoke. Then he said, "She left instructions." I looked at him. "Mom, she had things organized." "That sounds like her." He nodded. "There'll be a meeting with the lawyer. Next week, I think." My chest tightened. Not because I expected anything. I truly didn't. Grandma had given me enough while alive. More than enough. But I knew my family. I knew even the idea of property could turn grief into appetite. "Okay," I said. Dad scraped one shoe against the pavement. "Your mother is worried." "About what?" "The house." I turned fully toward him. "Grandma was buried 2 hours ago." He flinched. "I know. Does Mom?" His face changed then. Pain, embarrassment, anger maybe. But as usual, he folded it and put it away. "She thinks we should keep it in the family." I laughed once. A terrible sound. "It is in the family." "Mara?" I shook my head. "No, not today." "She's just thinking ahead." "She always is." He looked at me then, really looked, and for a second I saw a man trapped inside all the quiet he had chosen. "I don't want fighting," he said. I believed him. That was the sad part. My father did not want fighting. He also did not want the work of justice. He wanted peace delivered already assembled, preferably by the person who had been hurt most. "I'm not fighting," I said. "I'm grieving." He looked down. The door opened again, and my mother's voice floated out. "Harold, people are leaving." He turned automatically. I watched him go. Later at Grandma's house, my mother began taking inventory without calling it that. She opened cabinets. She looked under tables. She commented on the condition of the sofa. Tessa walked from room to room with red eyes and bright interest. "This place has such good bones," she said. I stood in the living room beside the old radiator. Grandma's house did have good bones. Plaster walls, original trim, hardwood floors under the old carpet, the deep porch, the maple tree, the dining room where I had learned that records had spines. Tessa ran her hand along the mantel. "With paint and the right furniture, this could be adorable." My mother glanced at me. "It will be a lot of work." I said, "It doesn't need to be discussed today." She sighed. "Nobody is discussing anything. We're just acknowledging reality." "What reality?" "That your father and I will need to decide what to do." The room went still inside me. I looked at my father. He was standing near Grandma's bookshelf, touching the spine of an old atlas. He did not turn around. I said, "Did the lawyer tell you that?" My mother's mouth tightened. "Mara, don't start with legal technicalities." This was Harold's mother's home. "And June's home," I said. "Before she was anyone's." "Mother." Tessa rolled her eyes. "Here we go." My mother lifted a hand. "Enough. We are all raw." Raw. Another useful word. It made greed sound like grief with poor timing. I walked into the kitchen because I could feel my composure thinning. Grandma's mug was still by the sink, the one with blue flowers. I picked it up, washed it, dried it, and put it in the cabinet where she kept mugs she actually used, not the display ones. My hands moved automatically. Behind me, my mother said, "We'll need to go through things soon, before dust settles." I closed the cabinet. "Before dust settles?" I repeated. She had the grace to look away. Tessa wandered in holding Grandma's silver hoop earrings. I think she'd want me to have these, she said. I looked at the earrings. Grandma had worn them almost every day. She had worn them the night she brought me birthday cake. She had worn them to the attorney's office in Fairview Park. She had worn them in the hospital until a nurse asked her to remove them for a scan, and Grandma told her, "Only if you label them like crown jewels." My throat burned. "Put them back," I said. Tessa blinked. "Excuse me?" "Put them back." My mother stepped in. "Mara, it's a pair of earrings." "No, it's her house, her things, and she is not even cold in the ground." Tessa's eyes filled. My father finally turned. "Mara," he said softly. I looked at him. "Don't." That one word stopped him. For the first time in my life, I saw my father choose not to finish a warning. Tessa put the earrings on the counter with a little clink. "Fine," she said. "God, keep them. You always acted like she was only yours." My mother wrapped an arm around her. I laughed. I did not mean to. It came out because the alternative was a sound I did not want them to hear. "She was never only mine," I said. "I was just the one who showed up." My mother's face went white. There are truths people can survive only if nobody says them clearly. I had said one. I left the house before anyone could answer. That night, I went back to my rented room and took out the leather portfolio. I had not opened it since Grandma died. My hands shook as I unzipped it. Inside were copies of things she had given me over the years. The 1984 deed, notes about records, a birthday card she wrote when I turned 25, a recipe for lemon bread, a photocopy of a quote she liked from some old judge about signatures and intent. And tucked behind the deed was a sealed envelope. I had forgotten about it. My name was written on the front in Grandma's block letters. "Mara, when you need steady hands." I sat on the floor beside my bed, holding that envelope for a long time. Then I opened it. Inside was one sheet. "Dear Mara, if you are reading this because I am gone, I am sorry for leaving you in the middle of unfinished people." I had to stop there. Unfinished people. That was exactly what they were. Not monsters. Not strangers. People with pieces missing who kept cutting pieces out of me to fill the gaps. I wiped my face and kept reading. "You have been asked to be the reasonable one for so long that I worry you will mistake surrender for kindness. Please don't. There will be pressure about the house. I know this because I know my family, and because I know property makes people reveal what they believe love owes them. I have made legal arrangements. Do not discuss them with anyone until you have spoken with attorney Samuel Klein. Call him first. Not your father, not your mother, not Tessa. Call the lawyer first. This is not revenge. It is a record. Love, Grandma." At the bottom, she had written a phone number. I read the letter 3 times. Then I put it back in the envelope, placed it in the portfolio, and sat very still. I wanted to call my father. That was the first impulse, and I am ashamed of it only a little. Even after everything, part of me wanted to give him a chance to be on my side before sides had names. I wanted to say, "Dad, did you know?" I wanted him to say, "No, but I'll respect whatever Mom wanted." I wanted an easier grief than the one I had been handed. But Grandma's letter sat in front of me. Call the lawyer first. So I did. Not that night. It was after business hours, and the office voicemail felt too formal for the way my hands were shaking. I waited until 9:01 the next morning. I had barely slept. I sat at my small kitchen table in Lakewood with coffee going cold beside me and called Klein Morrow. A receptionist answered. When I said my name, her voice changed. "Yes, Ms. Voss. Mr. Klein was expecting your call." Expecting. The word moved through me like cold water. Attorney Samuel Klein came on the line 2 minutes later. He had a calm voice, low and careful. "Miss Voss, I'm very sorry for your loss." "Thank you. Your grandmother spoke of you often." I closed my eyes. He continued, "I understand this may be a difficult time. She left instructions that I was to meet with you privately before the family meeting." "The family meeting?" "Yes. Your father contacted our office yesterday. We scheduled a general estate conference for Friday at 10. Yesterday, the day of the funeral. My father had called the lawyer the day of the funeral. I stared at the wall above my table. There was a small crack in the paint shaped like a river. Did he ask about the house? I said. Mr. Klein paused. He asked what documents existed regarding the house. That was lawyer language. Yes, I said. He asked about the house. Another pause. Yes. I counted 3 breaths. What did Grandma do? Mr. Klein did not answer immediately. I would prefer to discuss the full details in person, but I can tell you this much now. Your Grace and Mother established the June Voss Living Trust in 2019. The Alder Street property was transferred into that trust by recorded deed. You are named successor trustee upon her death and sole beneficiary of the real property. The words were plain. I still could not hold them. Beneficiary, I repeated. Yes. The house? Yes. I looked at my coffee. The surface had gone still. She left me her house? She did. My first feeling was not joy. It was panic. Because I knew what this would become in my family's mouth. I knew how quickly love would turn into accusation. I knew my mother would say Grandma had been confused. Tessa would say I manipulated a sick woman. My father would say he did not want conflict while standing on the side that benefited him. Mr. Klein must have heard something in my silence. Ms. Voss, he said gently, your grandmother was very clear. We have physician letters from around the time of execution, contemporaneous notes, 2 witnesses, a notary, and filing confirmation from the county recorder. She anticipated the possibility of challenge. I laughed once, but it broke. Of course she did. She also left a letter to be read if necessary. I looked at the envelope on the table. I have one too. I know. Of course he knew. Grandma June had built a bridge and labeled every plank. We scheduled a private meeting for Wednesday morning. I called in sick to work, which I almost never did. Mr. Alvarez answered the phone himself because the receptionist was out. I need a personal day, I said. Take it. I can bring a note if, Mara, he said. Take the day. I swallowed. Thank you. Before he hung up, he said, and don't sign anything tired. I closed my eyes. Even he knew. At Klein Morrow, I sat in a leather chair across from Mr. Klein while he opened a neat stack of documents. He was in his late 50s, with square glasses and a blue tie with tiny white dots. His office smelled like paper, coffee, and old wood. A framed certificate hung behind him. On a side table sat a small dish of peppermints. He walked me through everything: the trust agreement, the certificate of trust, the deed transferring the Alder Street house from June Voss, unmarried woman, to June Voss as trustee of the June Voss Living Trust, the successor trustee language naming me, the specific distribution clause leaving the real property to me outright after debts and expenses tied to the property were handled, separate small cash gifts to my father and to Tessa, a donation to the library, personal property instructions. Grandma had not forgotten them. That mattered too. She left my father $15,000. She left Tessa $5,000, and her set of china teacups, the ones Tessa had once said were vintage cute. She left my mother a pearl brooch, if Diane wants it, which made Mr. Klein pause before reading, because even in legal documents Grandma could slip in a raised eyebrow, and she left me the house, the blue folder, her silver hoop earrings, and a letter. Mr. Klein read the formal parts first. Then he looked at me. Your grandmother instructed me to give you the original of this today. He slid an envelope across the desk. This one was not addressed to me. It was addressed, to be read if my wishes are questioned. My skin prickled. Do I open it? That is your decision. She suggested you read it privately first. I took it with both hands. Mr. Klein leaned back. There is something else you need to know. Your grandmother was concerned about undue pressure after her death. She authorized our office to attend any family meeting where documents are discussed. She also asked that Ms. Evelyn Hart from Westfield Bank be available if questions arose about her capacity or independent financial management. Bank officer? Yes. Ms. Hart worked with your grandmother for many years. She witnessed several financial decisions and provided a notarized statement regarding your grandmother's independence. I stared at him. Grandma had not just made a plan, she had built a wall with windows. Why didn't she tell me? I whispered. Mr. Klein's face softened. She said you would try to make it fair. I looked down. He waited. She was probably right, I said. Yes, he said. She thought so too. That hurt more than I expected. Not because she was wrong, because she was right. If Grandma had told me while she was alive, I might have argued. I might have said Dad should have the house. I might have said Tessa would make things unbearable. I might have asked her to split it just to keep the peace. I might have tried to give away the first real shelter anyone had chosen for me. Grandma knew that, so she protected me even from my own training. Mr. Klein gave me certified copies and told me to keep the originals secure. He explained my duties as successor trustee, the steps needed to transfer administration, the property taxes, insurance, utilities, and maintenance. He did not give me legal advice beyond his role, and he made that clear. He was careful, procedural, kind. At the end, he said, "Your family may react emotionally." I almost smiled. They will react strategically. He studied me for a moment. Then I recommend you communicate in writing whenever possible. I already do. His eyebrows lifted slightly. My grandmother taught me. I'm aware, he said, and for the first time that morning, he smiled. I left the office carrying a blue folder he had prepared for me, not Grandma's old one, a new one, dark blue with metal fasteners and labeled tabs. Trust, deed, letters, bank, receipts, communications. I sat in my car and placed it on the passenger seat. Then I cried. Not the way I cried on my birthday. Not abandoned. Not humiliated. This was grief, gratitude, fear, and love all moving through the same narrow door. Grandma had give, and me a house. But more than that, she had given me a fact no one in my family could vote on. By Friday morning, my mother had already begun the campaign. She called me at 7:12. I did not answer. She texted at 7:13. We need to present a united front today. At 7:20, please do not make this about old grievances. At 7:34, your father is fragile. At 8:02, Tessa barely slept. There it was again. Tessa's sleep. My father's fragility. My mother's front. Everyone's needs arranged like furniture blocking the door. I replied at 8:15. I will attend the meeting. I will listen to the attorney. I will not discuss anything beforehand. My mother responded immediately. That sounds very cold. I typed 3 different answers and deleted all of them. Then I wrote, I'll see you at 10. At 9:45, I arrived at Klein Morrow. My parents were already in the parking lot. Tessa sat in the back seat of their car wearing oversized sunglasses, though it was cloudy. My mother stood beside the passenger door, speaking to my father in a low voice. She stopped when she saw me. Her eyes went straight to the blue folder in my hand. What is that? She asked. Documents. We are all going in together. I looked at the building. Looks like it. Mara. I stopped. My mother walked closer. She wore a camel coat, black boots, and the expression she used when other people might be watching. Concern with steel underneath. Before we go in there, I want to say something. I waited. She lowered her voice. Your grandmother loved all of us. Whatever she wrote, whatever little arrangements she made, we need to remember she was elderly. There it was. The first stone. I said, Be careful. Her eyes sharpened. Excuse me? Be careful how you talk about her mind. My father got out of the car. Mara, your mother isn't saying, yes, she is. Tessa opened the back door. Can we not do this in a parking lot? I looked at her. That may be the first sensible thing you've said in years. Her mouth fell open. My mother's face flushed. That was ugly. I looked at her. Not everything is about you, I said softly. She froze. I had never used the sentence back before. Not really. Not with intention. It landed between us like a glass set down too hard. My father looked from me to her. Tessa whispered, "Wow." I walked inside. The family meeting was not the public detonation. Not yet. That came later, because my mother did not know how to lose in private. But the first meeting showed me the shape of the fight. Mr. Klein seated us in a conference room with a long walnut table. There were water bottles on a tray, and a box of tissues placed discreetly near the center. My mother sat beside my father. Tessa sat beside my mother. I sat across from them with the blue folder in front of me. Mr. Klein expressed condolences. He explained that Grandma's estate had both probate and non-probate elements. He said the house was not part of the probate estate because it had been transferred into trust. My mother frowned. "I'm sorry," she said. "What does that mean in plain English?" Mr. Klein folded his hands. "It means the Alder Street property is governed by the trust documents, not by intestate succession or the will." Tessa leaned toward my mother. "What?" My father's face had gone gray. He knew enough to understand before the sentence finished. Mr. Klein continued. "Mrs. Voss named Mara Voss as successor trustee and sole beneficiary of the real property." Silence. Not normal silence. Impact silence. My mother blinked. "That can't be right." Mr. Klein did not react. "It is." "No. Harold is her son." "Yes." "And Mara is her granddaughter." "Yes." My mother laughed softly, as if everyone had misunderstood something obvious. "Then surely this is some kind of temporary arrangement for handling paperwork." "No," Mr. Klein said. "The beneficial distribution is clear." Tessa pushed her sunglasses onto her head. Her eyes were dry. "She left Mara the house?" "Yes." The room changed. I felt it like a drop in temperature. My mother turned to me. "Did you know about this?" "No." "Don't lie." Mr. Klein spoke before I could. "Mrs. Voss instructed that Mara not be informed until after her death." My mother looked back at him. "That seems unusual." "It is not uncommon for clients to keep estate plans private." "She was sick." "She executed the relevant documents in 2019, well before her final decline, and we have records supporting capacity." My mother's nostrils flared. My father stared at the table. Tessa said, "This is insane." I looked at her. She looked genuinely shocked, which told me something important. They had not known. They had assumed. My mother had already arranged the future in her mind, and Tessa had decorated it. My father cleared his throat. "Sam," he said, using the lawyer's first name like familiarity could soften law. "Mom always said the house would stay in the family." Mr. Klein nodded. "It will." My father's face tightened. I almost felt sorry for him. Almost. My mother leaned forward. "This is very hurtful. I hope you understand that. Harold was her only child." Mr. Klein's voice stayed even. "I understand this may be emotional." "Emotional?" she repeated. "My husband has just lost his mother, and now he is being told his daughter somehow gets the family home." Somehow. There it was. The implication sliding in under the door. I placed my hand flat on the blue folder. Mr. Klein said, "Mrs. Voss left a written explanation. Mara has the original. Our office has a copy." My mother turned to me. "Open it." It was not a request. Every old instinct in me rose at once. Obey, smooth it over, prevent the explosion. Be easy. I counted the corners of the folder. 1, 2, 3, 4. Then I said no. My mother stared. No? No. That letter concerns this family. It concerns Grandma's wishes. I'll decide when it needs to be read. Tessa scoffed. Convenient. I looked at her. Very. Mr. Klein's mouth did not move, but something in his eyes did. My mother's voice went soft, dangerously soft. Mara, sweetheart, this is not the moment to become possessive. Sweetheart, she had not called me that in years. I felt my skin crawl. I'm not being possessive. You are sitting there with a folder like you've won something. I leaned back. 1. Grandma was dead. My chest felt hollow. I had slept maybe 4 hours in 3 days. The woman who had been my safest place was gone, and my mother looked at me across a lawyer's table and saw a scoreboard. I didn't win, I said. Grandma chose. Tessa's eyes filled. Because you made her feel sorry for you. There it was. Not the full accusation yet. A trial balloon. Something floated to see if the room would let it drift. Mr. Klein said, I'm going to stop that line of discussion now. My mother stiffened. Excuse me? Mrs. Voss's capacity and independence are well documented. Accusations of manipulation are serious. If you intend to make one formally, you should retain counsel. Otherwise, we will continue reviewing the documents. My father looked sick. Tessa folded her arms. My mother sat back, but I could see her working. She was not done. She was only changing tools. The rest of the meeting passed like weather behind glass. Small bequests, bank accounts, personal property, funeral reimbursement, tax matters. My father barely spoke. My mother asked questions that sounded innocent and weren't. Could the trust be amended after death? No. Could the family collectively decide a different outcome? Not unless the beneficiary voluntarily transferred interest. Was Mara allowed to sell the house? Yes. Was Mara allowed to let non-family live there? As owner after distribution, yes. Was there any requirement that Harold approve changes? No. Each no landed on my mother's face like a door closing. When the meeting ended, Mr. Klein asked me to stay for a few minutes. My mother hated that. I could feel it before she spoke. Anything you say to Mara can be said to all of us. Mr. Klein stood. I represent the trust administration. Mara is successor trustee. I need to review administrative duties with her. My mother looked at me. We'll wait. No, I said. Her head turned slowly. I have work after this. I'll leave from here. Tessa laughed. Of course. I looked at her. What does that mean? It means you got what you wanted and now you're running. I almost answered. Then I remembered Grandma's letter. Truth is a scalpel, not a hammer. So I said nothing. My family left the conference room. Through the glass wall, I watched my mother stow near the receptionist desk and speak to my father with sharp little movements of her hand. Tessa stood beside them, looking at her phone, probably already writing the first version of the story where I had stolen a house from a grieving son. Mr. Klein closed the conference room door. Are you all right? He asked. I looked at the blue folder. No. He nodded. That is a reasonable answer. For some reason, that almost made me cry. He reviewed next steps. Insurance needed to be updated, utilities transferred, locks could be changed if I wished. Personal property had to be handled carefully according to the trust instructions. He recommended written communication and suggested I not meet alone with family members regarding the house. Not meet alone? I said. Your grandmother specifically requested I advise you of that. I stared at him. Of course she had. When I left, my parents' car was gone, but my phone had 9 messages, 3 from my mother, 2 from my father, 4 from Tessa. I did not read them until I was in my car with the doors locked. My mother, I hope you are proud of yourself. Then, your grandmother was not in her right mind if she thought this was okay. Then, call me immediately. My father, we need to talk, kiddo. Then, Please don't let lawyers turn this ugly. Tessa, you finally got paid for playing victim. Then, I hope the house keeps you warm when nobody speaks to you. Then, Grandma would be ashamed. Then 1 minute later, actually no, she wouldn't because you brainwashed her. I sat in the car and read them twice. My hands were steady. That surprised me. The messages hurt, but not like before. Before, their words had entered me like weather through a broken window. Now they hit glass. Not bulletproof glass. I am not trying to sound stronger than I was. But glass. Something was between me and them. A record. A deed. A trust. A dead woman's love written clearly enough that even my mother could not rearrange it. I drove to Alder Street. Grandma's house was cold when I entered. Not freezing, just empty cold. The kind of cold houses get when no one has made tea in them for days. I stood in the front room and listened. No radio, no kettle, no cane tapping down the hall. I set the blue folder on the dining room table, then I walked room to room. In the bedroom, her cardigan still hung over the chair. In the bathroom, the lavender soap sat in its dish, worn into a smooth oval. In the kitchen, a grocery list was stuck to the fridge with a magnet shaped like a tomato. Milk, tea, stamps, blue pens. Blue pens. I covered my mouth. Grief came then, hard and private. I sat on the kitchen floor and cried until my ribs hurt. Nobody saw. Nobody corrected my tone. Nobody told me not everything was about me. For once, a loss was allowed to be mine without being useful to someone else. After a while, I got up. I washed my face. Then I opened the drawer, by the back door where Grandma kept spare keys. Empty. I frowned. There should have been 3 labeled keys there. Front, back, garage. I checked the little ceramic dish on the counter. Empty. A cold thread moved through me. I went to the front door. The lock showed tiny scratches near the keyway, not forced, just used often. I looked at the mudroom. One of the old hooks was empty where Grandma had kept the spare set with a blue rubber cap. I called Mr. Klein. He answered on the second ring. Ms. Voss? Did Grandma give anyone else keys? Not that she told me. My family may have them. Then change the locks. Today? Today. So I did. The locksmith charged $186.42 for 3 exterior locks and 4 new keys. His name was Pete, and he had a gray beard and a van that smelled like metal filings and coffee. While he worked, my mother called twice. I let it ring. At 3:28, Tessa texted, "Did you seriously change the locks?" I looked toward the front door, where Pete was tightening the new deadbolt. That answered one question. I wrote back, "Yes." She replied, "Wow, you are sick." Then, "Mom is crying." Then, "Dad is devastated." Then, "You're locking us out of Grandma's house." I typed, "It is my house now. Access needs to go through me." I stared at that sentence for a full minute before sending it. My house. The words felt too large. I sent it anyway. No answer came for 7 minutes. Then my mother called. I let it go to voicemail. The voicemail was 49 seconds long. I did not listen right away. I made tea first. Peppermint, because Grandma would have said caffeine after legal meetings was punishment too. I sat at her kitchen table, placed my phone beside the mug, and pressed play. My mother's voice filled the room. "Mara, this is beyond cruel. Your father went by to get some of his mother's personal items and found the locks changed like he is a stranger. I don't know who is advising you, but this is not who you are. You are letting resentment guide you. We need to sit down as a family, without attorneys, and fix this before permanent damage is done." A pause, then softer. "Not everything is about old pain." I stopped the voicemail. There it was again. dressed in new clothes. Old pain. As if pain expired if enough people benefited from ignoring it. I saved the voicemail. Then I forwarded it to my email and put it in a folder labeled June Estate Communications. Records, not revenge. Over the next 2 weeks, my mother tried every door. First, guilt. Your father can't sleep. Then praise. You have always been mature enough to do the right thing. Then shame. People are asking questions. Then fear. Lawyers will drain everything your grandmother built. Then family history. This house belongs to the Voss line. I wanted to reply, I am the Voss line too. Instead, I kept responses short. I'm following the trust documents. Please send requests in writing. The pro. Purdy is not available for unscheduled visits. No personal items will be removed until inventory is complete. Each message felt like lifting weights. Heavy at first, then less impossible. Tessa chose a different path. She went public. Not with details. She was too careful for that. She posted vague grief quotes, photos of Grandma's porch from old family albums, a picture of the maple tree with the caption, "Some people care more about ownership than love." Then came the comments. So sorry you're dealing with this. Families get greedy after death. Your grandma knows your heart. Tessa replied to that one with a broken heart emoji. My mother did not post, but she liked every comment. I took screenshots. Not because I planned to use them, because Grandma had trained me to keep what people tried to make float away. The first real escalation came on a Saturday morning. I was at Alder Street sorting the linen closet. It smelled like cedar blocks and old cotton. I had made 3 piles on the hallway floor. Keep, donate, ask Dad. I was trying to be fair. Even after the messages, even after the posts, I still made an Ask Dad pile. That is what people do not understand about boundaries. They think you put one up because you stopped caring. Sometimes you put one up while caring so much it is making you stupid. At 10:16, a car pulled into the driveway. I looked out the front window. My parents' car. Tessa's white SUV parked behind it. My stomach dropped. I had told them no unscheduled visits. My mother got out first, carrying a tote bag. My father followed. Tessa stepped out wearing boots and a cream sweater, holding a cardboard box. I opened the front door, but kept the storm door locked. My mother smiled through the glass. Mara, open up. What are you doing here? We're here to go through family items. I said inventory first. We are not strangers. My father looked miserable. Tessa looked bored. I kept one hand on the inside lock. I'm not doing this today. My mother's smile hardened. You are not doing what? Letting people remove things from the house without documentation. Tessa laughed. Documentation? They're Grandma's towels. My mother looked past me into the house. This has gone far enough. I said, you need to leave. My father finally spoke. Mara, come on. We drove all the way here. From Milner Road. It's 12 minutes. Tessa's mouth twisted. My mother lowered her voice. Do not embarrass your father on the porch. Something inside me became very calm. I opened the storm door, stepped out, and closed the main door behind me. The November air was sharp. Leaves scraped along the porch boards. Across the street, Mrs. Alton's curtains moved. Of course they did. Nothing on Alder Street happened without witnesses. I said, Dad, did you ask me if you could come today? He looked at the porch floor. No. Did I say personal items could be removed before inventory? No. Then I'm not embarrassing you. I'm enforcing what I already said. My mother's face flashed. Tessa shifted her box to one hip. You sound like a cop. No. I sound like the person legally responsible for the property. My father flinched at legally. My mother stepped closer. This is exactly what I feared. You're enjoying power. I looked at her carefully. There was a time that sentence would have destroyed me. I would have spent days turning it over, asking myself if I was becoming selfish, cruel, greedy, hard. Now I heard something else. Projection has a tone. I'm going inside, I said. You need to leave. My mother grabbed the storm door handle before I could open it. Not hard, not violent, just enough. "Mara," she said, "you will not shut us out of your grandmother's home." I looked down at her hand, then at her face. "It is my home." She went still. Behind her, Tessa scoffed. My father closed his eyes. I said it again, because the first time had been for her, and the second was for me. "It is my home." My mother released the handle as if it burned her. I went inside and locked both doors. They stayed on the porch for 8 minutes. I counted. My mother knocked twice. Tessa called me unbelievable. My father said my name once softly through the door. Then they left. I stood in the entryway shaking so hard my teeth clicked, but I did not open the door. After their car pulled away, I sat at Grandma's dining room table and wrote everything down. November 20th, Diane, Harold, and Tessa arrived without permission at 10:16 a.m., carrying bags, boxes to remove items. Refused to leave at first. Diane grabbed storm door handle. Left after approximately 8 minutes. Then I took a picture of the page. Then I cried again. That was the pattern of those weeks. Stand firm. Record. Cry. Make tea. Repeat. If this part makes you angry, I understand. It is maddening to watch people demand access to what they never cared for, while the person who showed up has to prove she is not greedy. Comment the word key if you know a locked door can be an act of peace, not punishment. Stay with me, because the key became one of the first things my sister lied about when the real confrontation finally came. The lie came through Aunt Pam. My mother was too skilled to accuse me directly where I could save the message. So she used weather systems, conversations, concern, family members who just wanted to understand. Aunt Pam called me 3 days after the porch incident. I liked Aunt Pam in a tired way. She was my mother's older sister and had the family habit of speaking in sighs. She was not malicious. She was weak around stronger personalities and called it being neutral. "Honey," she said, "I'm not trying to get in the middle." People who say that are almost always standing directly in the middle, holding a spoon. "I know," I said. "Just spoke with your mother." "I assumed?" She sighed. "She says your father tried to get his mother's Bible and you locked him out." I closed my eyes. Grandma's Bible was on her nightstand. My father had not mentioned it. Nobody had mentioned it. He came with Mom and Tessa carrying bags and boxes. They did not ask ahead. They did not say anything about a Bible. "Oh." Aunt Pam sounded genuinely surprised. I waited. "Well," she said, "maybe emotions were high." Aunt Pam. I know. "No, listen to me. If Dad wants Grandma's Bible, he can email me. I will make sure he gets it. But I am not allowing people to walk through the house removing things without inventory." That sounds so formal. It has to be. But it's family. I looked at the blue folder on my table. That's why it has to be. She was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "Your mother feels you are punishing everyone for what happened years ago." There it was. The birthday had returned. Not as something they owed me, as something I was apparently using to become dangerous. "What happened years ago?" I asked. Aunt Pam hesitated. "Your birthday dinner." "Did Mom tell you Tessa's tests were normal?" Another pause. "She said it was anxiety." "Did she tell you Grandma offered to take me to dinner anyway, and they said no?" "No." "Did she tell you they came home and told me not everything was about me because Grandma brought me one slice of my own cake?" Silence. I looked out the window. A squirrel ran along the fence with something in its mouth. Aunt Pam said softly, "No." "Okay." She sighed again, but this time it sounded different. Less like performance, more like air leaving a balloon. "I didn't know that." "Most people didn't." "Why didn't you say anything?" I almost laughed. "To whom?" She had no answer. After that call, Aunt Pam changed a little. Not fully. People rarely flip cleanly, But she stopped repeating my mother's lines without checking them. Sometimes that is the beginning of courage for people who have spent a lifetime borrowing other people's certainty. My father emailed about the Bible the next day. Subject: Mom's Bible. Mara, I would like to have my mother's Bible if you are willing. It was on her nightstand. I should have asked directly. Dad, I read that last sentence twice. I should have asked directly. It was not an apology exactly, but it was a straight line. From him, that was rare. I replied, yes, I'll set it aside for you. You can pick it up Sunday at 2 p.m. I'll bring it to the porch. He wrote back, thank you. Then, a minute later, I'm sorry about Saturday. I stared at those words. My father had apologized before in ways that did not cost him anything. Sorry you took it that way. Sorry things got tense. Sorry your mother is upset. This was different. Small, but different. I did not know what to do with it, so I wrote, thank you for saying that. Sunday at 2, he came alone. That mattered. He pizza parked at the curb instead of the driveway. He walked up the path with his hands in his jacket pockets. I opened the door and stepped onto the porch holding Grandma's Bible wrapped in brown paper. He looked thinner. Or maybe grief had finally reached his face. Hi, he said. Hi. I handed him the package. He held it with both hands. For a second we were quiet. Then he said, your mother wanted to come. I figured. I told her no. That surprised me. He looked down at the Bible. Mom wrote notes in this. In the margins. I know. She ever show you? A few. His mouth moved like a smile, but not quite. She underlined the strange parts. She liked strange parts. She did. The porch boards creaked under his shoes as he shifted. Then he said, I didn't know about the trust. I know. I mean it. I didn't. I believe you. He looked at me then. His eyes were red. I also didn't ask her. That sentence sat between us. It was the closest he had come to naming his own absence. No, I said. You didn't. He nodded. No defense. No warning. No, Mara, come on, just a nod. I keep thinking she was mad at me, he said. I looked toward the maple tree. Most of the leaves were gone now. A few clung stubbornly at the ends of branches. I don't think Grandma made decisions from anger. He swallowed. What did she make them from? Memory. He closed his eyes. For 1 second I thought he might cry again, but he held it back. My father had spent too long treating tears like contraband. I should have visited more, he said. I did not comfort him. That was hard. The old Mara would have rushed in. You were busy. She knew you loved her. Don't feel bad. Anything to rescue him from the weight of his own sentence. But Grandma's voice was in my head. Don't let them make you cruel. Comfort would have been a lie. Silence would have been punishment. Truth had to be the scalpel. Yes, I said. You should have. His face twisted. Then he nodded. I know. That was the honest beat I mentioned at the start, not the full one. That came later. But this was the first crack in my father's wall that did not immediately get plastered over by my mother. He left with the Bible under one arm. I watched him drive away and felt grief for 3 people at once. Grandma, my father, and the daughter I had been, the one who would have lived on one honest sentence for years if he had given it sooner. The peace did not last. My mother must have sensed the small shift because she tightened her grip. 2 days after Dad picked up the Bible, I received an email from her. Not a text. An email with a subject line that looked formal enough to pretend it was reasonable. Subject: Family Resolution. Mara, I have taken time to think about the situation with the house. While I understand that legal paperwork may name you in certain ways, I believe we both know your grandmother did not intend to create division. Your father is grieving deeply, Tessa is also grieving and has always felt connected to that home. The fairest solution would be for you to transfer the property to your father with an understanding that you may continue to use it as needed. We can discuss compensation for any expenses you have incurred. Please do not let pride or past resentment guide a permanent family decision. Mom, I read it at my desk during lunch. The office around me kept moving, phones ringing, printer humming, someone laughing near the break room. My sandwich sat untouched beside my keyboard. Transfer the property to your father, with an understanding. As needed. Compensation for expenses. There it was. The plan, cleanly dressed. Give us the house. Trust us after. Be grateful for scraps. I forwarded the email to Mr. Klein. Then I replied, no. That was the whole email. My heart pounded when I sent it. 10 seconds later, I wished I had written more. Something smart, something legal, something Grandma would admire. Then Mr. Alvarez walked past my desk, glanced at my face, and stopped. You all right? I looked at the screen. I just sent a one-word email to my mother. He considered that efficient. I laughed. He nodded toward the file on my desk. Back up your records. I did. Good. Then he walked away. Mr. Klein replied within the hour. Good response. Do not elaborate. I printed that email and put it in the folder because it made me feel less insane. My mother did not respond to me directly. Instead, Tessa did. You are unbelievable. Then, one word? Really? Then, you can't even have a conversation like an adult? Then, after a pause, Mom says Grandma would hate seeing us like this. I typed, Grandma made written choices to avoid confusion. I'm honoring them. Tessa replied, You're hiding behind paperwork because you know no one would choose you without it. I sat very still. There are sentences that find the old wound so precisely you almost respect the aim. You know no one would choose you without it. I read it once, twice. Then I saved it. I did not answer. That night, I went to Alder Street and opened Grandma's blue folder, the original one. Mr. Klein had given it to me after the private meeting. It was thicker than I remembered, the cardboard softened at the edges from years of use. My name on the tab had faded slightly, but the letters were still clear. Mara. Inside were pages in Grandma's handwriting. Receipts, notes, printed emails. My own old notes, some written in teenage pencil, some in adult ink. The birthday entry, the Christmas gas card, the printer argument, the day I moved out, the lunch at Maribel's. So many small erasures gathered until they could not be called small anymore. At the back was a new section I had not seen. House. My breath caught. There were notes from Grandma dated over several years. May 3rd, 2018. Diane joked that when I finally downsized to heaven, Tessa should take the house because she has vision. Harold silent. August 19th, 2019. Met with S. Klein. Discussed trust. I am certain. Mara sees the house as home, not opportunity. September 2nd, 2019. Evelyn notarized bank forms. Harold has not asked about my wishes. Diane has hinted twice. December 24th, 2020. Tessa said Alder Street would make the cutest content house. I told her old houses need work. She said work can be hired. Then the last note. June 11th, 2021. Mara fixed porch rail without being asked, paid $38 for hardware, and would not take cash. Sat with me after dinner and did not feel silence. This is the difference. I covered my mouth. This is the difference. Not money, not blood, not who cried loudest in public, who fixed the rail, who sat in silence, who saw the house as shelter, not stage. I took that page and pressed it to my chest like a child. Then I put it back where it belonged. The next months were a lesson in how people behave when reality refuses to bend. My mother tried to recruit relatives. Some came gently. Some came with opinions already packed. Uncle Ron called and asked whether I had considered selling the house and splitting proceeds just to keep peace. I asked, Did Mom tell you Grandma left Dad money? He paused. No. Did she tell you Tessa got a cash gift in China? No. Did she tell you Grandma wrote a letter explaining the house? Another pause. No. Then maybe ask why. He never brought it up again. Cousin Becca messaged me privately and said Tessa was telling people I had isolated Grandma at the end. That one made my hands go cold. Because it was not just cruel, it was dangerous. It was the kind of lie that could grow teeth. I sent the screenshot to Mr. Klein. He advised documenting, not engaging publicly. If direct accusations escalated, he would send a formal letter. I wanted him to send it immediately. I wanted paper with letterhead to land in my mother's mailbox like thunder. But then I remembered Grandma. Scalpel, not hammer. So I waited. In January, I moved into the Alder Street house. Not all at once. Slowly, respectfully. I kept Grandma's bedroom untouched for 2 months. I slept in the spare room under the quilt with green squares, the same room where I had woken after my ruined birthday. I brought my clothes in plastic bins, my books, my coffee maker, the leather portfolio, my desk from Lakewood. The first night officially living there, I stood in the kitchen and listened to the radiators hiss. The house felt empty, but not unwelcoming. I made peppermint tea. I put one of Grandma's blue mugs on the table. I opened my laptop and paid the electric bill, $94.63. Then I made a list of repairs. Porch rail, already done. Back steps, loose. Kitchen faucet, drip. Dining room outlet, sparks sometimes. Bedroom window, painted shut. Basement seepage, north wall. Owning a house is not romantic at midnight. It with a repair list and a bank account that has seen better days. But it was mine, and that word kept landing differently each time. Mine did not mean nobody else mattered. Mine meant I did not need permission to stay. I painted the spare room first. Blue, not bright, not baby. A quiet blue, like the inside of a shadow on snow. The paint cost $36.98 a gallon. I bought 2 gallons and used 1.5. While I rolled the second coat, Tessa posted a photo of a coffee mug with the caption, "Some people steal homes, others build them." I put my phone in a drawer and kept painting. By spring, the house began to feel like a conversation between Grandma and me. I kept her dining room table. I kept the radio in the kitchen. I kept the lavender soap in a dish until it was gone, then bought the same kind from the farm stand because grief makes you loyal to strange things. I also changed things. I replaced the curtains in the front room. I fixed the faucet. I turned the small back bedroom into an office with shelves for records and a scanner near the window. I planted rosemary by the steps. I put a small brass hook by the back door for my keys. The first time I hosted Lena for dinner there, she stood in the entryway and cried. Lena had stayed my friend through all of it. Through canceled plans, night classes, my mother's guilt storms, Grandma's illness. She was the kind of friend who did not demand updates but remembered dates. She brought soup when Grandma died and stayed in the kitchen washing dishes while relatives performed grief in the living room. She walked through the house slowly, touching nothing. "It feels like you," she said. I laughed. "It feels like old radiators and dust." "No," she said. "It feels safe." That word undid me. We ate pasta at the dining room table. Nothing fancy. Penne with jarred sauce improved with garlic and too much Parmesan. A salad. Cheap red wine. The whole meal cost maybe $22. Halfway through dinner, Lena raised her glass. "To June." I raised mine. "To records," she added. I smiled. "To records." Summer came. The maple tree filled out. The porch became my favorite place. I bought 2 second-hand wicker chairs from a woman in Rocky River for $60 and carried them home tied badly in the back of my Civic. I drank coffee there in the mornings before work and watched Mrs. Alton walk her old terrier, who had the attitude of a much larger animal. My family did not visit. That was not the same as leaving me alone. My mother sent occasional emails, each one polished and poisoned. "Your father drove by and saw changes to the porch." It might have been thoughtful to consult him. Tessa is still processing the loss of a place she loved. I hope you are taking good care of what was entrusted to you. Entrusted. Not given. Never given. I answered only when necessary. The porch repair was needed for safety. No response. The property is insured and maintained. No response. Please direct estate. Related concerns to Attorney Klein. No response. Then, in August, my father came by without my mother. He called first. That alone made me answer. Hi, Dad. Hi, are you busy? I'm working from home today. Oh, right, sorry. A pause. What do you need? I was wondering if I could stop by, just for a few minutes. I looked around my office. Files stacked, scanner humming, a cup of coffee gone lukewarm. Why? He exhaled. I found some of Mom's old photos in the garage. Thought you might want to see them. This could have been a trick. I knew that. But something in his voice sounded tired rather than tactical. Okay, I said. At 4. He came at 4 with a shoebox. No tote bags. No Tessa. No mother. I let him in. It felt strange watching my father step into Grandma's house as a guest. He wiped his shoes on the mat without being asked and looked around the entryway. You painted, he said. The back room. It's nice. Thanks. He stood awkwardly near the living room, holding the shoebox. I said, Kitchen? He nodded. We sat at the table where Grandma had written the first note in the blue folder. He opened the shoebox. Inside were photographs. Grandma at 20, hair dark and curled under. Grandma holding my father as a baby. My grandfather in a plaid shirt beside a lake. My father at 8 on the porch steps, grinning with scraped knees. Grandma in the garden. Grandma and me at my high school graduation, her arm tight around my waist. I had never seen some of them. For almost an hour, we sorted them into piles. His, mine, scan for both. Ask relatives. It was almost peaceful. Then he picked up a photo of me at 12, sitting on Grandma's porch with a book in my lap. My hair was in a messy braid. I had braces. I was looking at whoever held the camera with suspicion. Dad smiled sadly. You were such a serious kid. I looked at the picture. I had reasons. His smile faded. He set the photo down. I know. I looked at him. He swallowed. I know more now. The kitchen clock ticked above the stove. He rubbed his thumb over the edge of the shoebox. Your mother says I'm letting you turn me against the family. I almost laughed. Are you? No. He looked out the window over the sink. I think I let the family turn me against you a long time ago. I stopped breathing for a second. There it was. The sentence. Not full repair. Not enough to rewrite anything. But honest. Late, yes. Too late in many ways. Still honest. My father's eyes filled, but the tears did not fall. I don't know how to fix that, he said. I looked at the photo of my 12-year-old self. You can't fix it by asking me to make it easy. He nodded slowly. I know. You can't fix it by staying quiet when Mom rewrites things. Another nod. I know. You can't fix it by feeling bad privately and doing nothing publicly. That one hurt him. I saw it. Good. I thought, then felt ashamed. But maybe some pain belongs where it lands. He said, I'm trying. I wanted to believe him. I also knew trying, in my family, often meant feeling discomfort and hoping I would reward the feeling as if it were change. So I said, I'll notice if you do. He looked at me. Then he gave a small, sad laugh. Fair. He left with 3 photos and the Ask Relatives pile. I kept the rest. That night, my mother called. I did not answer. She left a voicemail. I understand your father came over today. I'm glad the 2 of you had a chance to talk, but I hope you're not using his grief to create distance between us. He is vulnerable right now. Please remember that. I saved it. September was quiet. October was not. My 31st birthday was on a Thursday. I had taken the day off work, not for a party, for myself. I planned a day that would have sounded boring to Tessa and perfect to me. Coffee on the porch, a trip to the art museum in Cleveland, lunch at a place downtown that made tomato soup with basil oil. Home by 4. Dinner with Lena at Bellafiore because I wanted to reclaim the restaurant without making a speech about it. Yes, the same restaurant. I had not been back since the night of my 21st birthday. 10 years. I made the reservation under Voss. This time, no deposit was required for 2 people. At 9:03 that morning, my mother texted, "Happy birthday." I stared at it. No exclamation point, no warmth, just 2 words performing duty. At 9:17, my father texted, "Happy birthday, kiddo. Hope you do something nice today." That one made me pause. I wrote back, "Thank you. I am." At 9:46, Tessa posted a photo of herself at a spa. Healing has seasons. I laughed so hard I spilled coffee on my porch step. At 6:45 that evening, Lena and I arrived at Bellafiore. The red awnings were still there, though faded. The black and white photos of Naples still hung on the walls. The hostess was too young to know the ghost she was seating. Our table was near the window. I ordered chicken piccata because 21-year-old me never got to. It was $24 now, because time raises prices even when it does not fix people. Lena ordered eggplant parmesan. We shared tiramisu. When the server brought dessert, there was a candle in it. Lena had asked. I groaned. Absolutely not. Absolutely yes. The flame trembled. For a moment, I was back in Grandma's kitchen. Blue plate, raspberry cake, rain on the window. Lena said, "Make a wish." I closed my eyes. At 21, I had wished to stop needing them to choose me. At 31, sitting in the restaurant I had once canceled with my voice steady and my heart broken, I realized the wish had come true. Not all at once, not cleanly, but truly. I blew out the candle. The smoke rose and vanished. This time, I did not cry. 3 days later, my mother sent the message that began the final unraveling. It came by email. Subject: Urgent family matter. Mara, we need to meet at the Alder Street house next Saturday at 10 a.m. This has gone on long enough. There are practical matters involving the property, family belongings, and your grandmother's wishes that need to be resolved face to face. I am inviting Aunt Pam, Uncle Ron, Becca, and a few others, so there is no confusion later about what is said. Attorney Klein does not need to be involved unless you insist on making this adversarial. Please come prepared to discuss a fair transfer or sale arrangement. Mom, I read it once. Then again. She was staging a family meeting in my house. My house. She was inviting relatives to witness me being pressured, dressed as transparency. My hands did not shake this time. They went cold. I forwarded the email to Mr. Klein with one sentence. I think she is escalating. He replied 12 minutes later. She is. Do not attend alone. I am available Saturday. I recommend Ms. Hart attend as well, if capacity financial intent is likely to be questioned. Your grandmother authorized this. I stared at the email. Ms. Hart, the bank officer. Grandma's second witness. I looked at the blue folder on my desk. The old one and the new one sat side by side. A place for things people try to make disappear. I wrote back, "Please come." Then I emailed my mother. Saturday at 10 a.m. is fine. Attorney Klein will attend. Evelyn Hart from Westfield Bank will also attend regarding Grandma's records. Since you are inviting relatives, I will prepare copies of relevant documents so there is no confusion. For 26 minutes, there was no answer. I counted. Then my mother replied, "That is unnecessary and aggressive." I smiled. Not happily, just enough. I wrote, "Then we can cancel the meeting." Her response came fast. "No. We will meet." Of course. Because my mother could not resist a room she believed she could control. She had no idea Grandma June had built that room years before she entered it. Saturday began at 6:14 a.m. with the sound of rain in the gutters. Not hard rain. A thin, steady tapping that made the house feel older than usual. The radiators clicked awake. The maple branches scraped softly against the upstairs window. I lay in Grandma June's old spare room, staring at the ceiling, and counted 10 breaths before I let myself move. 1, 2, 3. By 6, my mother had already sent 2 messages. The first, "Please remember, this is a family discussion, not a courtroom." The second, 3 minutes later, "Do not humiliate your father." I read them in bed with the quilt pulled to my chest. Not a courtroom. That was the thing about people like my mother. They loved soft words until soft words stopped working. Family discussion meant pressure. Fairness meant surrender. Peace meant my silence. Humiliation meant anyone hearing the truth in a room where she could not edit it first. I did not answer. At 7:02, Mr. Klein emailed, "Ms. Hart and I will arrive at 9:40. I recommend you do not allow entry before we arrive. Please have copies of all communications you want preserved." At 7:03, I replied, "Understood." My hands were steady, but my stomach felt hollow. I got up, showered, and dressed in black pants, a cream blouse, and the gray cardigan Grandma used to say made me look like a librarian with secrets. I almost wore the navy birthday dress. For a second, I stood in front of the closet with my hand on the hanger, thinking about it. Then I left it there. That dress belonged to the girl who wanted one dinner. The woman walking downstairs did not need a costume from her own wound. In the kitchen, I made peppermint tea. I ate one piece of toast with butter because Grandma would have scolded me for facing a family ambush on an empty stomach. I wiped the counters. I checked the bathroom. I moved the good tissues to the living room because if Tessa was going to cry, she could at least use the soft ones. That made me laugh. Just once. At 8 a.m., I opened the new blue folder on the dining room table. Inside were the certified trust documents, the recorded deed, property tax records, insurance forms, copies of my mother's emails, screenshots of Tessa's posts, the porch incident notes, and a sealed copy of Grandma's letter to be read if her wishes were questioned. The old blue folder sat beside it. It looked tired, soft at the edges. The metal prongs were slightly bent. My name on the tab had faded, but it still held. I touched it with 2 fingers. "Steady hands," I whispered. At 8:17, Lena texted, "You do not owe calm to people who mistake it for consent." I smiled and saved the message. At 8:42, my father called. I let it ring until voicemail. Then I listened. "Hey, Mar, I know today is going to be a lot. I just wanted to say I'm coming because your mother asked me to, but I don't want you cornered. I don't know how to do this right. I'm trying. That's all." "Okay." The voicemail ended. I sat down slowly. There were no magic words in it, no full defense, no promise to stand in front of me. But there was something I had never heard from my father before a family meeting. "I don't want you cornered." I saved that too. At 9:11, the first car drove slowly past the house. Aunt Pam. She did not stop. She made the block, probably gathering courage, then parked across the street. I watched through the front window as she sat in her car with both hands on the wheel. At 9:19, Uncle Ron arrived in his pickup. At 9:22, Becca came with her husband Matt, who looked like he would rather be at a dentist appointment. At 9:31, my mother arrived. She came in my father's car, sitting in the passenger seat with her chin lifted. Tessa followed in her white SUV, parking too close to the curb. My father got out first. He looked up at the house, then at the porch, then, the front window where I stood. He saw me. He did not wave, but he nodded once. My mother stepped out in a navy coat and pearl earrings, the same kind of armor she had worn my whole life. Tessa wore a soft beige sweater and boots, with her hair in loose waves. She carried a leather tote bag. That tote mattered. I saw it and felt something in me go alert. At 9:40 exactly, Mr. Klein's black sedan pulled up. A silver sedan parked behind him. Evelyn Hart stepped out carrying a slim briefcase. I had met her only once, 2 days earlier, on a video call. She was in her early 60s, with warm brown skin, short natural gray hair, and the calm face of a woman who had spent 40 years telling people no in rooms where they expected yes. She wore a dark green coat and small gold earrings. Mr. Klein came up the walk first. "Good morning," he said. "Good morning." Miss Hart smiled gently. "Mara, thank you for coming. Your grandmother asked. I'm glad to honor it." That sentence almost broke me before the meeting even began. At 9:45, I opened the door. My mother was already at the foot of the porch steps. She looked at Mr. Klein, then at Miss Hart, then at me. "I thought this was family." "It is," I said. "And since you invited witnesses, so did I." Her mouth tightened. Tessa shifted her tote higher on her shoulder. "This is so dramatic." I looked at her. "No," I said. "This is documented." Aunt Pam heard that from the sidewalk. Her eyes flicked to the blue folder in my hand. I let everyone in. 13 people came, just as I said at the beginning. My parents, Tessa, Aunt Pam, Uncle Ron, Becca, and Matt. 2 cousins from my father's side, Elaine and Mark. Mrs. Alton, because she had been Grandma's neighbor for 28 years, and my mother had invited her thinking neighborly pressure would help. Mr. Klein, Ms. Hart, and me. 13 people in the house Grandma bought with her own hand. My mother tried to take the center of the living room immediately. Of course she did. She stood near the fireplace, where Tessa had once imagined the right furniture, and folded her hands. "Thank you all for coming," she began. I let her have 5 words. Then I said, "Before we start, this meeting is being summarized in writing by Attorney Klein's office. If anyone is uncomfortable with that, you're free to leave now." My mother stopped. Tessa laughed under her breath. "Of course." Mr. Klein said, "To be clear, I am not making an audio recording. I am taking notes as counsel for trust administration. If anyone makes a factual claim, I may ask clarifying questions." Uncle Ron looked at my mother. "Diane, you didn't say a lawyer was coming." My mother's smile was thin. "I didn't know Mara planned to turn this into a proceeding." "You invited us to discuss property," Becca said softly. "Kind of sounds like a proceeding already." My mother shot her a look. That was the first shot. Small, but real. At 10 a.m., my mother began again. "We are here because my mother-in-law's passing has created painful confusion," she said. "This house has been part of the Voss family for decades. Harold grew up here. Tessa and Mara spent their childhoods here. We all loved June." Miss Hart looked at the floor. "Not rudely, just enough." My mother continued. "Unfortunately, the paperwork has placed Mara in a position I do not believe she is emotionally prepared to handle fairly." There it was. At 10:03, she used fairness as a blade. She looked at me with sad eyes. "Mara has carried resentment for a long time. I think many of us know that. Things from childhood, a birthday dinner years ago, old misunderstandings, and now those wounds are affecting decisions that should be made for the good of the whole family." Aunt Pam looked down at her lap. My father's jaw tightened. Tessa sat on the arm of a chair, eyes shiny, ready. I waited. My mother turned to the room. "No one is saying Mara should be cut out. Of course not. But keeping this house entirely for herself, locking people out, refusing to share personal items, and using legal language against her own father is not what June would have wanted." Mr. Klein wrote something down. The scratch of his pen sounded loud. My mother heard it and faltered for half a second. Then she looked directly at me. "So we are asking, as a family, that Mara agree today to one of 2 fair options. Either transfer the house to Harold with a written family understanding that she may use it when needed, or agree to sell the house and split the proceeds equally between Harold, Mara, and Tessa." Tessa's head lifted. There it was. Equal. My father looked at my mother sharply. I do not think she had told him the second option. Or maybe she had, and he had not wanted to hear it out loud. I asked, "Why would Tessa receive 1/3 of proceeds from a house Grandma left to me?" Tessa stood. "Because I'm part of this family, too. I didn't ask if you were family. I asked why you'd receive 1/3 of my property." My mother's eyes flashed. "Mara?" I turned to her. "No. Answer the question." She took a breath. "Because your grandmother loved her." Grandma left Tessa $5,000 in china teacups. Tessa's face reddened. "Wow. Did you not know that?" She looked at my mother. My mother said, "This is exactly the sort of scorekeeping I'm talking about." Ms. Hart spoke for the first time. "Stating the terms of a trust is not scorekeeping." The room went quiet. My mother blinked. "I'm sorry. And you are?" "Evelyn Hart. I was Mrs. Voss's banking officer for many years and a witness to several statements of intent regarding her independent financial decisions." My mother smiled in that polite, dangerous way. "A bank officer does not know family dynamics." "No," Ms. Hart said. "But I know when a woman understands her accounts, asks clear questions, rejects pressure, and gives instructions without confusion." My mother's smile froze. At 10:12, the first wall cracked. Mr. Klein stood beside the dining room doorway with his folder open. "Perhaps it would help to clarify the legal facts before any further proposals are discussed," he said. My mother lifted her chin. "Fine." He read in a clear voice. Not dramatic, not warm, just exact. The Alder Street property had been transferred into the June Voss Living Trust on September 4, 2019. The deed had been recorded with the county on September 9, 2019. June Voss served as trustee during her lifetime. Upon her death, I became successor trustee. The trust directed that the house be distributed to me outright, subject to administration expenses. Harold received a cash gift. Tessa received a cash gift and specific personal property. Diane received a brooch if she wanted it. "If Diane wants it," Aunt Pam murmured before she could stop herself. Uncle Ron coughed. My mother heard. Her face tightened. Mr. Klein continued. "There is no requirement, legal or written, that Ms. Mara Voss transfer, sell, divide proceeds, or grant use of the property to any other family member." At 10:18, Tessa opened her tote bag. I watched her hand go in. She pulled out a folder, not blue, cream-colored, expensive, the kind sold in office boutiques to make ordinary paper feel important. "I have something too," she said. My mother's face changed. Not surprise. Relief. My father looked confused. "Tessa," he said, "what is that?" She ignored him. She opened the folder and took out several pages clipped together. "I printed a draft agreement," she said. "Since Mara likes paperwork so much." My stomach went cold. Mr. Klein turned his head. "What kind of agreement?" he asked. Tessa held it out toward me but did not step closer. "A quitclaim deed and family settlement. It would transfer the house to Dad, but give Mara a right to live here for 1 year while she figures out her next step." Mom said that was more than fair. A sound moved through the room. "Not one person. Several." Becca whispered. "What?" My father stood. "Diane." My mother held up a hand. "It is only a draft." I looked at Tessa's face. There was the sister I knew. Not crying now. Not fragile. Bright with the belief that she had finally brought the winning prop into the room. Mr. Klein walked over and held out his hand. "May I see that?" Tessa hesitated. My mother said, "It's not signed." "That is not what I asked," he said. Tessa gave it to him. He read the first page, then the second. His expression did not change, but something in the room did. Maybe because calm people become frightening when they go very still. "Who prepared this?" he asked. Tessa said, "It's from an online legal template." Mr. Klein looked at my mother. Who filled in the names and legal description? My mother's lay. P.S. parted. Tessa said too quickly. I did. Mr. Klein turned a page. The legal description appears copied from the recorded deed. Tessa folded her arms. Public record, right? Yes, he said. It is. He turned another page, then he stopped. Miss Voss, he said to me. Did you authorize anyone to prepare transfer documents on your behalf? No. Did you agree to sign a quitclaim deed? No. Did you receive this draft before today? No. He looked back at Tessa. This document includes a notary block and a signature line for Mara Voss. Tessa rolled her eyes. Because she would need to sign it. Obviously. Mr. Klein's voice stayed level. It also contains language stating the transfer is being made for $10 and other valuable consideration, with no mention of coercion, family pressure, retained occupancy, or independent counsel. My mother said, It's a starting point. No, Mr. Klein said. It is a document designed to make a transfer look voluntary. The room went dead quiet. At 10:27, my father said my mother's name in a voice I had never heard. Diane. She turned on him. Do not start. No, he said. One word. Small. Clear. My mother blinked. He pointed at the papers in Mr. Klein's hand. His hand was shaking. Did you know about that? She looked away. My father's face changed. Something old and tired fell off it. You brought a deed for her to sign? I brought an option. You brought a deed. Tessa snapped. Because she won't listen. My father turned to her. Tessa, stop. She looked shocked. Truly shocked. He had never used that voice with her. My mother stepped forward. Harold, you're upset. Yes, he said. I am. 2 words. Another door. I looked at him and felt the room tilt. My father looked at me. Then he looked away, ashamed. At 10:31, my mother tried to regain the room. This is being twisted. We are not trying to steal anything. We are trying to keep June's home from becoming a monument to Mara's grudges. I opened the old blue folder. The sound was small. Cardboard, metal, paper. But my mother stopped speaking. Every eye moved to the folder. I had not planned to open it that early. I thought I would wait until the letter. Keep the personal record out unless needed. But my mother had named the old pain. She had dragged my birthday into the room. She had turned Grandma's house into a cure for my supposed resentment. So I opened the place where things did not disappear. This folder began when I was 13, I said. My voice sounded calm. I was not calm. But my voice was. Grandma started it after Mom left me at her house sick, because I looked like I might ruin photos at Tessa's dance showcase. It was never meant to be a weapon. It was a record. My mother laughed once. You cannot be serious. I am. I turned the first page. October 14th, 2008. Diane left. Mara with me sick and said she would ruin photos. My mother's face reddened. I turned another page. May 22nd, 2012. Harold and Diane missed Mara's debate finals after Tessa claimed she felt unsafe at a friend's house. Friend's mother later confirmed dispute was about a boy staying over. Tessa whispered, "Oh my God." I turned another page. October 6th, 2016. Mara's 21st birthday dinner canceled after Tessa claimed chest pain. Diane and Harold refused June's offer to take Mara to dinner. Tessa posted hospital bracelet online before diagnosis. Aunt Pam covered her mouth. My mother stepped toward me. Enough. I looked up. No. She froze. I had said no before, but not like that. Not in a room full of witnesses. Not with Grandma's handwriting under my fingers. I continued. November 9th, 2016. Diane canceled rescheduled birthday dinner because Mara's attitude made it uncomfortable. Mara, my father said quietly. I looked at him. There were tears in his eyes. Not enough. Too late. But real. I turned to the house section. May 3rd, 2018. Diane joked that when I downsized to heaven, Tessa should take the house because she has vision. Harold silent. My mother whispered, June wrote that? Yes. I read the next.
August 19th, 2019. Met with S. Klein. Discussed trust. I am certain. Mara sees the house as home, not opportunity. Mrs. Alton began to cry then. Softly. She had loved Grandma too. Quietly, with exchanged tomatoes and collected mail and porch conversations at dusk. I read the last one. June 11th, 2021. Mara fixed porch rail without being asked, paid $38 for hardware and would not take cash. Sat with me after dinner and did not fill silence. This is the difference. Silence. Complete silence. My mother looked around the room and saw something she had not expected. Not everyone believed her. That was new. That was the moment her control began to panic. She turned to Miss Hart. This is sentimental nonsense. Notes in a folder do not prove estate intent. No, Miss Hart said. The trust proves estate intent. The folder explains it. Mr. Klein nodded. And the trust is valid. Tessa's face twisted. So that's it? She gets to stand here reading a burn book and everyone just acts like she's some saint? I looked at her. Tessa, do you remember what you texted me after the first meeting? She rolled her eyes. I texted a lot of things. You wrote, "You're hiding behind paperwork because you know no one would choose you without it." Her face changed. Becca looked at her. Tess? I opened the new blue folder and took out the screenshot. I printed it, I said. Tessa's eyes flicked to the paper, then away. You were cruel because you thought it was true, I said. That was the mistake. My mother said, "Do not attack your sister." I turned to her. Not everything is about Tessa. The sentence landed, the old cruel line inverted in the roomway, ere they had come to use it one more time. My mother's mouth opened, but no sound came out. I said it again, softer. Not everything is about Tessa. Not Grandma's house. Not my birthday. Not Dad's grief. Not my records. Not every room. Not every table. Not every chair. Not every piece of love anyone else receives. Tessa began crying. This time the tears looked real. I did not enjoy them. That surprised me, though maybe it shouldn't have. I had pictured in darker moments that seeing her exposed would feel like justice ringing a bell. It did not. It felt like watching a person fall through the floorboards she had spent years loosening under someone else. My mother went to her automatically, but slower this time. Because people were watching. At 10:44, Mr. Klein opened the sealed letter. Mrs. Voss left this to be read if her wishes were questioned, he said. Mara, do I have your permission? I nodded. The room held its breath. His voice was steady. To my family, if this letter is being read, then someone has decided my wishes require debate. They do not. I bought the house on Alder Street before I was a wife, before I was a mother, and long before anyone thought of it as an asset. It was my shelter. I know what that word means. I have chosen to leave the house to Mara because she understood it as shelter too. She came when I was sick. She fixed what was loose. She listened without making illness into theater. She never asked me for the house. That is one reason I trusted her with it. Harold, you are my son, and I love you. I also watched you choose quiet when your daughter needed protection. I hope someday you understand that peace without truth is only comfort for the person who is not bleeding. Diane, you are capable and determined. You also mistake control for care. Do not call this confusion. I was not confused. Tessa, I hope you learn that attention is not the same as love, and crisis is not the same as being cared for. Mara, if they ask you to be reasonable, remember that surrender is not the only proof of kindness. This is not revenge. It is a record. Do not fight over my house. Honor my decision or leave it alone. June Voss. Mr. Klein lowered the letter. Nobody moved. The rain had stopped. I noticed that. The house was very quiet,
except for the radiator ticking near the window. At 10:52, my father sat down, not gracefully, like his knees had failed him. He put one hand over his mouth. My mother stared at the floor. Tessa whispered, "She hated me." I said no. Everyone looked at me. I looked at my sister, and for the first time that day, I saw not the golden child, not the liar on the bedroom floor, not the woman with the cream folder and the quitclaim deed. I saw someone who had been rewarded for every worst instinct until she thought those instincts were love. "No," I said again. "She did not hate you. She told you the truth." Tessa cried he.
Ardor. My mother's head snapped up. How dare you act generous now? There she was, not gone, not broken, just cornered. I looked at her calmly. I'm not acting generous. I'm answering accurately. Her face twisted. You have enjoyed every second of this. No. You have waited years to humiliate us. No. You kept that folder like a little shrine to being wronged. I closed the old blue folder. Then I stood. The room seemed to tighten around the movement. I kept that folder because every time I told the truth in this family, someone called it attitude, resentment, drama, cruelty, or old pain. Grandma kept it first because she knew one day you would ask me to forget, and you did. My mother's eyes shone, but no tears fell. You asked me to forget my birthday. You asked me to forget Dad's silence. You asked me to forget Tessa's lies. You asked me to forget that Grandma chose with a clear mind. You asked me to forget that this house is legally mine. You asked me to sign it away and call that peace. I placed one hand on the new blue folder.
I am answering once. My mother went still. I looked at her. No. One word. No anger attached to it. No speech after it. Just no. At 11:03, the meeting was over in every way that mattered. People still sat there, but the purpose had died. Uncle Ron stood first. He looked embarrassed, which was fair. He came over to me, took off his cap, and said, "Mara, I didn't know all that." "I know. I'm sorry I pushed. Thank you." Aunt Pam hugged me, then cried harder than I expected. I should have asked more questions. "Yes," I said. She pulled back, startled. Then she nodded. "Yes, I should have." Becca squeezed my hand. "I'm proud of you." Tessa heard and flinched. Mrs. Alton came last. She took both my hands and said, "June knew exactly what she was doing." "I know." "No," she said. "I mean exactly." Then she smiled through tears and left. By 11:18, only my parents, Tessa, Mr. Klein, Ms. Hart, and I remained. The house felt larger. Tessa stood near the fireplace, looking smaller than she ever had in that room. The cream folder lay on the coffee table, abandoned. Mr. Klein had kept the draft deed. He said he would retain a copy in his file. My mother noticed. "Is that necessary?" she asked. "Yes," he said. She did not argue. That told me she finally understood something. Not remorse. Not yet. Maybe never. Consequence. At 11:24, my father stood and walked toward me. My mother watched him like she could still pull a string. He stopped 2 feet away. "Mara," he said. I waited. His face crumpled. "I'm sorry." Not polished, not careful, not followed by but. Just sorry. The word landed late, years late, a lifetime late in some places. But it landed. "I let her say that to you," he said. "I let all of it happen because it was easier to keep the room quiet. I called that peace. It wasn't." My throat tightened. He wiped his face with his hand. "I failed you." The room blurred. That was the sentence I had needed when I was 7, 12, 16, 21, 23, in Grandma's kitchen, in my rented room, in the hospital hallway that had never been an admission, in every room where my father looked down and let my mother define reality. He finally said it, and saying it did not erase anything. That was the cruel part. A child's hunger does not vanish because the meal arrives after she has learned to cook for herself, but I did not throw it back at him. Grandma had warned me about cruelty, not because they did not deserve consequence, because I deserved to stay whole. So I said, "Thank you for saying it." My father nodded, crying openly now. "I don't expect you to fix it for me," I added. "I know." "No," I said gently. "I need you to really know. I'm not giving you the house. I'm not pretending the past was confusion. I'm not managing Mom's reaction. If you want a relationship with me, it has to be separate from her version of me." He looked at my mother, then back at me. "I understand." My mother laughed bitterly. "Of course." Now I'm the villain. Nobody answered. That may have been the most powerful moment of the whole day. Nobody rescued her from the silence she had earned. Tessa picked up her purse. "I can't be here." She looked at me as if waiting for me to stop her. I didn't. At the door, she turned. "I really did feel chest pain that night," she said. The old birthday moved through the room like a draft. I looked at her. "Maybe you did." Her face changed. She had expected denial. I continued. "But you also knew how to use it. Those can both be true." She swallowed. I was 19. I was 21. Her eyes filled again. "I didn't know they'd cancel everything." "Yes," I said. "You did." She looked away. No answer. That was answer enough. She left. My mother followed, but at the door she turned back too. For one strange second, I thought she might say something human, something small and bare. Instead, she looked at the walls, the furniture, the dining room table, the blue folders, the house that had refused her. "This place will never feel right after this," she said. I walked to the door and held it open. "It feels right to me." Her eyes met mine. I saw hatred there. Not clean hatred. Hurt pride wearing grief's coat. Maybe underneath it was fear. Maybe underneath that was love so misshapen it could no longer stand upright. But I was done excavating my mother. She stepped onto the porch. My father followed last, carrying nothing. At 11:36, I closed the door. Not slammed, closed. The latch clicked softly. For a full minute, I stood with my hand on the knob. Then I turned around. Mr. Klein was gathering papers in the living room. "Ms. Hart says," "Tooed near Grandma's photograph on the mantel." "She was proud of you," Miss Hart said. I pressed a hand to my stomach. "I hope so." "No," she said, turning. "She told me, more than once." That undid me. I sat on the bottom stair and cried. No one told me to stop. Mr. Klein waited quietly. Ms. Hart brought me water. The house held. By noon, they were gone too. I was alone in my house with 2 blue folders, 1 cream folder full of attempted theft, and the strange quiet that comes after truth has done its work. If you made it to this part, comment the word porch, because sometimes the most important line in your life is not shouted in a courtroom or posted online. Sometimes it is a door closing softly behind people who thought they would always have a key. Subscribe and stay, because the aftermath mattered too. Not because everyone became good. Because consequences do not fall all at once. They arrive in packets. The first packet came from Tessa. She deleted the vague posts, not all at once. That would have looked guilty. But over the next week, the grief quotes disappeared. The maple tree photo vanished. The coffee mug caption about stealing homes was gone by Tuesday. Then she posted nothing for 9 days. For Tessa, that was a public collapse. Becca told me later that several relatives had asked her about the meeting. Not my mother, not Tessa. Her. Because Becca had become the person in the room most people trusted to describe it without seasoning. She told the truth. Not every detail. She did not need to. She said Grandma's documents were clear. Mara had not manipulated her, and Diane had brought transfer papers for Mara to sign. That last part traveled fast. It should have.
My mother hated that. The second packet came from Uncle Ron. He called my father, not me, and told him he needed to get his house in order. I only know because my father told me later, embarrassed and grateful in equal measure. The third packet came from Mr. Klein. He sent my mother and Tessa a formal letter instructing them to stop making statements suggesting I had manipulated Grandma or obtained the house improperly. It referenced the trust, capacity documentation, and the prepared quit-claim deed. It was not dramatic. It was 2 pages of clean consequence on letterhead. My mother did not respond. Tessa blocked me for 3 months. I considered that a gift. The fourth packet was smaller. Aunt Pam brought the pearl brooch to my house in a small padded envelope. "Your mother doesn't want it," she said. I almost laughed. Of course she didn't. The brooch had become contaminated by not being enough. Aunt Pam placed it on the table. "What do you want me to do with it?" I asked. "It was left to Diane if she wanted it. She doesn't. I thought maybe you should have it." I opened the envelope. The brooch was simple. A small cluster of imitation pearls shaped like a leaf.
Not valuable, maybe $30 at most. But Grandma had worn it on Easter and to 2 weddings and once to my school choir concert, where Tessa had complained the music was boring and my mother had shushed her only because other parents were watching. I held it in my palm. "I'll keep it," I said. Aunt Pam nodded. Then she looked around the kitchen. "You've made it nice." "It was already nice." "Yes," she said. "But now it looks lived in." I knew what she meant. We had tea. She apologized again, in pieces, the way people do when they are learning how not to defend themselves. I accepted what I could. I did not give her more than she asked for, and I did not punish her for being late. That felt like mercy, too. The 5th packet came from my father. He asked if he could come by once a month to help with repairs. I said no at first. Not because I wanted to hurt him, because I did not want him using labor as a shortcut around accountability. Fixing steps is easier than sitting with the fact that you let your daughter be stepped over. He accepted the no. That mattered. That. 2 months later, he asked again, differently. "Would it be okay if I came by and helped with the basement wall? Not to make up for anything. Just because I know how, and you shouldn't have to pay someone if you don't want to." I said yes. He came on a Saturday with work gloves, hydraulic cement, and coffee from the gas station. We worked for 4 hours in the basement, scraping loose mortar and patching seepage along the north wall. We did not talk about my mother. We did not talk about Tessa. We talked about the wall, the weather, and Grandma's habit of labeling every jar of screws, even when there were only 3 screws inside. At lunch, sitting on overturned buckets, he said, "Your grandmother would hate that I'm using the wrong putty knife." I said, "She would tell you too." He smiled. Then he got quiet. "I'm seeing someone," he said. My head snapped up. "What?" "A counselor. Through work. I should have done it years ago." I did not know what to say. So I said, "Good." He nodded. "It's uncomfortable." "I hope so." He laughed, surprised. Then I did too. That was how my relationship with my father began again. Not repaired, not restored. Began. Like a house with damaged wiring, you do not flip every switch and hope. You trace. You test. You replace what can burn the place down. My mother did not come with him. My parents did not divorce, if that is what you are wondering. Stories like this do not always hand out endings with neat labels. They stayed married. But something changed. My father stopped translating my boundaries into my mother's pain. When she sent messages through him, he returned them unopened. At least that is how he described it. The first time he said, "You'll have to ask Mara yourself. My mother did not speak to him for 2 days." He told me that with a tired smile. I said, "Peaceful," he said. "Quiet." We looked at each other. Then he said, "Not the same thing."
I thought of Grandma in the tomato garden. No. Sometimes quiet is just where the harm gets comfortable. He had finally learned the difference. Tessa's mercy beat came in April. I did not expect it from her. I did not expect anything from her by then. She emailed me from a new address because she had blocked me and apparently did not want to unblock me first. The subject line was blank. Mara, I found Grandma's earrings in a box at Mom's, the silver hoops. I think I took them that day after the funeral and forgot. Or maybe I didn't forget. I don't know. I'm mailing them to you. I'm not ready to talk. I'm not asking you to say it's okay. Tessa, no apology. Not exactly. But the earrings arrived 3 days later, wrapped in tissue paper, inside a padded mailer with no return address. I opened the package at the dining room table. The hoops lay in my palm, cool and bright. For a moment, I was back in the kitchen on my birthday night, Grandma with her gray coat and the cake box, those earrings catching the light as she wrote down what everyone else wanted forgotten. I put them in a small dish beside her photograph. Then I emailed Tessa. I received them. Thank you for sending them back. That was all. Sometimes mercy is not a hug. Sometimes mercy is not using every true thing as a knife. Sometimes mercy is leaving a door unlocked in yourself without inviting someone back into your house. My mother's final message came on Mother's Day. I had not planned to contact her. I know that sounds harsh to some people. People hear mother and think the word itself should open every gate. But words are not keys. Titles are not proof of care. At 8:26 that morning, she texted, I suppose I should not expect to hear from you today. I looked at the message while sitting on the porch with coffee. The maple tree was full again. Mrs. Alton's terrier was barking at a robin. Somewhere down the street, someone was mowing too early. I could have ignored it. Maybe I should have. Instead, I answered once. You should expect honesty from me, not performance. I hope your day is peaceful. She replied, That is a very cold thing to say to your mother. I watched the little bubble appear, disappear, appear again. Then another message came. I loved you the best way I knew how. I stared at that sentence. For a long time, I did nothing. Then I typed, I believe that may be true. It was not enough. I sent it. She did not answer. I sat on the porch until my coffee went cold. There was sadness in me. Of course there was. Boundary does not cancel grief. Truth does not make you stop wishing things had been different. I still wished for a mother who could call on my birthday and mean it. I still wished for a father who had learned age before I learned silence. I still wished for a sister who could sit beside someone else's joy without needing to set off an alarm. But wishes are not plans. Records are plans. Deeds are plans. Locks are plans. So are soft things, though. Tea, porch chairs, a guest room painted quiet blue, a friend at dinner, a father learning to knock, a sister mailing back earrings she once took, a house where nobody throws away cake because someone else wants the room. That October, on my 32nd birthday, I hosted dinner at Alder Street, not a big one. I invited Lena, Becca, Aunt Pam, Mrs. Alton, Mr. Alvarez, and my father. Tessa did not come. My mother did not come. That was all right. I made chicken piccata because the dish had become funny to me by then. Lena brought tiramisu. Aunt Pam brought salad. Mrs. Alton brought rolls wrapped in a towel. Mr. Alvarez brought a bottle of wine and inspected my dining room shelves like he expected to find indexing errors. My father brought flowers, white lilies and blue delphinium. When I saw them, I had to step into the kitchen for a minute.
He did not follow. He had learned something. We ate at Grandma's dining room table. People talked over each other in the normal way, not the cruel way. Plates passed. Glasses clinked. Rain tapped lightly against the windows, because apparently my birthdays had a weather contract. After dinner, Lena brought out a small vanilla cake with raspberry filling and blue icing. Happy birthday, Mara. The letters were slightly crooked. Perfect. There was one candle. Everyone sang. Badly. Mrs. Alton was early. My father was late. Mr. Alvarez did not know half the words somehow, even though there are not many. I looked around the table. For years, I thought being chosen would feel like a spotlight, like everyone finally turning toward me at once. It did not. It felt like a chair that stayed open. It felt like food still warm when I sat down. It felt like no one asking me to earn the candle. I blew it out. No wish this time. I had things to do instead. After everyone left, my father stayed to help with dishes. We stood side by side at the sink, the same place where my mother once turned a slice of cake into an accusation. He washed. I dried. After a while, he said, "She would have liked tonight." "Grandma?" "Yeah." I put a plate in the cabinet. "She was here." He nodded. Then he said, "I'm glad you kept the house." I looked at him. He kept washing, eyes on the soapy water. "I wasn't, at first," he said. I don't know what I thought, that something had been taken from me. But it wasn't mine. Not really." He handed me a mug. "It was hers, then yours." I took it. "Thank you." He nodded once. No big scene. No hug with music swelling. Just a man drying his hands on a towel in the house where he had finally stopped asking the wrong daughter to pay for his peace. That was enough for that night. Later, alone, I took Ma's old blue folder from the shelf in my office. I had not added to it in months. I opened to a fresh page. October 6, 2022. Mara hosted birthday dinner at Alder Street. Cake served, candle blown out. No one left. I looked at the sentence, then I added one more line. The house held. I closed the folder. Some people will tell you forgiveness means handing the keys back to whoever locked you out of yourself. I do not believe that. I think forgiveness, when it comes at all, is quieter. It is refusing to become a museum for what hurt you. It is letting truth stand without standing beside it every hour to make sure it does not fall. It is knowing the record exists, the deed is filed, the door closes, and you can still plant rosemary by the steps. My parents canceled my birthday for my sister's fake crisis. Years later, they asked me to erase my grandmother's choice, my own memory, and the paper trail that protected me. I answered once, no. And for the first time in my life, nobody could throw that answer away. So if you are sitting somewhere tonight with your own version of a blue folder, your own small record of things people told you to forget, please hear me. You are not selfish for remembering. You are not cruel for needing proof. You are not dramatic because someone else built a life around your silence. Truth does not need to shout. Sometimes it only needs a date, a signature, a witness, and a steady hand. That's my story. If it stayed with you, comment the word steady and tell me where you're watching from. Subscribe if you want more stories like this, where dignity does not beg, receipts do not tremble, and the quiet person finally keeps the house.